see a larger pier on the horizon. You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Overnight success. The Glazinator 3000. Double blaze. Right. That's misinformation.
Market clearing order inbound.
That's just wrong.
You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Come, get up. Trust the experts. Vibe coding. We are experts. Founder mode. Vibe coding.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Experts.
UAV online.
Glaze. Double glaze. Triple glaze. Double kill. Vibe code. Wrong. Pump is up. Glaze.
Team deathmatch.
We are experts. Triple glaze. That's just wrong. Right.
Market clearing order inbound.
Come, get up.
You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Strike one. Strike two. Activate Goldman retriever mode. Triple glaze. Trust the experts.
Market clearing order inbound. UAV online.
Vibe coded.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Founder mode.
You're watching TVPN. Today is Thursday, March 26th. We are live from the TVPN Ultradome, the temple of technology, the fortress of finance, the capital of capital. Let me tell you about ramp.com. Time is money, save both. Easy to use corporate cards, bill pay, accounting, and a whole lot more. Let me also pull up the linear lineup because we have a monster show Jordy's back in the TBP and Ultradome. I know you missed him. We have Eric Goldman coming on to help break down the Meta YouTube lawsuit.
By the way, yesterday was the first time we've been live that I was not on the air.
Yeah.
And so I was watching in the third person.
How'd I do? Here, we can drop the Linear lineup. Linear, of course, is the system for modern software development. 70% of enterprise workspaces on Linear are using agents. Give me a review. How'd I do?
I thought you did fantastic. I was texting you in real time. I probably sent you like 20-something messages of like, ask about this, ask me about that.
It was, somebody in the chat said I was free soloing TVPN, and it was great.
Yeah,
but we really were down to our last few associates here. Tyler was out. Jordy was out. Who else? Nick was out. We were on, what do they call it, a shoestring or something like that? I don't know. But it worked out. It was a fun show. It's not the same show without the soundboard. I was going to do this whole bit about like, oh yeah, I got it dialed. You can just, we don't need you on the show anymore. And then of course the fans would be like, no, bring back Jordy. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, he's back. But I can't even joke about it because we need the soundboard. I only got
It really is musical. It really is. Imagine if you were, I was waiting for you to just be spamming that.
Just sitting there having a serious interview.
Apparently, we have some audio issues.
Okay, we will work.
Bear with us. We're working on it.
This is the
but I can go through. I can go through a bit of our guest lineup today. We have Nima,
some highlights.
Friend of mine. He is the founder of Salt and Stone.
Yeah,
they
in person.
Recently exited the business as of this week. A massive, multi-$100 million deal. Very excited to get to understand the business better. We have Jon McNeill coming on. He's an author to talk about Elon Musk's 5-step algorithm for scaling Tesla. Then we have Karri from Linear on how Linear is evolving in the AI age. And then we have a bunch of different founders, including Mikey from Suno coming on.
And then we got back-to-back Zacks. Zack Kanter, Zach Perret, going back-to-back Zacks. That's what I like to see. Well, the big news of the day, of the week, this has been going on all week, is that ARM, the intellectual property developer that creates intellectual property designs for CPUs, is now getting into the chip game. And they got a big ARM pump in the stock market. So the company is up 15% over the last few days on the news that they will sell their own chips. This is new for ARM. ARM's a very old company. Fascinating history. I actually made a 25-minute YouTube video all about the history of the company back in 2023. But we'll recap a little bit of it today. But they normally just license out their intellectual property. And that is a phenomenal business. 97% gross margins. 97% gross margins. Yeah, let's give it up.
There we go.
Give it up. That's amazing. And it's a big business. $4 billion in revenue last year, nearly $800 million of net income. This new move, they're expecting to ramp revenue to $15 billion by 2031. So they're expanding the market significantly. Now margins will be different, but the market cap for ARM is now around $166 billion. So it's a big company. It trades at a very high multiple.
Yeah, $4 billion last year, currently trading at $165 billion.
But very, very high gross margins. So this is a big shift in strategy. ARM's not an AI loser by any means, but it hasn't gotten the attention that other GPU makers have received, like NVIDIA. CPUs are far from dead, though. In fact, we are currently in what seems like a little bit of a CPU crunch. Intel can't make CPUs fast enough. NVIDIA is starting to sell their Grace CPU that goes with their Hopper. So you get the H100 and you pair it with the Grace CPU. You get the GPU and the CPU all on one system. Well, now you can buy the CPU by itself if you're CPU constrained. So you don't want to just be GPU rich and CPU poor. You got to be rich in both camps. And a lot of companies are jumping in to fill this gap. So agents, and a lot of this is because of agents. Agents need CPUs. You need to fill the GPUs constantly with new data and tasks. Also, all of the agents use CPUs to make web queries, search the web, run Python, spin up web servers, interact with anything. We've just seen, we talked to some folks at Semi-Analysis about this, like uptime is going down for non-GPU accelerated workloads. Like you go to a SaaS product that is basically just a web server that's running on a CPU somewhere in a data center, and you're like, oh, this thing isn't loading today, or like there's downtime. And a lot of that's just because we're writing more software, we're using more software as a society, as a country, and we need more CPUs as well as GPUs, even though GPUs are like the hot thing to talk about. So ARM has a very interesting backstory. As I mentioned, you can go watch my 25-minute YouTube video about it to go all the way back and all the precursor companies. It's a really long story, but you can think about it basically as a joint venture between three groups, Apple, Acorn Computer, and VLSI. And so they needed to design a low-power CPU for mobile devices. Before phones, you know what was hot, Jordy? PDAs. And have you ever seen a PDA, Tyler?
No.
You've never seen a PDA?
I don't think so.
Okay, so before the iPhone, everyone had flip phones, but before
This is not a pager?
It's not a pager. You don't know what this is either?
No.
Wow. So there's something called a Palm Pilot, and basically it was like a iPhone-sized screen, and it has stylus, and you could write on it, and you could make notes, and PDA stood for Personal Digital Assistant. And I feel like that brand is just itching to come back in 2026. Like, that's what so many people are...
Everyone is working on a PDA.
Yeah, personal superintelligence assistants. There's a whole bunch of things. We're building PDAs, folks. They just live in the cloud, and it's not a physical device. But these PDAs back in the 90s were physical devices. This was post-pager, pre-smartphone, and it was the device that you carried to take notes and do things that you do today in apps you would do on your PDA. But it wasn't always on, internet connected, none of that. It was a Palm Pilot, and this was like a fantastic business for a while. But there were a lot of problems with this because for the first time, you needed a CPU that could live within a plastic shell. Basically, these were plastic enclosures. You needed to run on a battery. It needed to be able to do some things, not crazy compute. But the CPU industry in the 90s was very focused on mainframes, servers, desktops. There were a few laptops popping up, but there was not the mobile phone revolution that's happening now, where you have Apple Silicon chips, and those are of course based on ARM architecture. But that's where all this came from. People said, okay, we need a lower power chip that can actually run off a battery, not overheat and melt the plastic, do all of this, and it can power a device that you carry with you as a personal digital assistant, a PDA. And so
Chicken in the chat says
Yes.
PayPal started on PDAs.
That's right. That's right. So PayPal started, originally the idea was these PDAs they didn't have like tap to pay or anything like that, RFID. They had basically the same device that you'd see on a TV remote, so IR. And it would flash a light that could be seen by another sensor. And if you flash the light at a certain rate, you can send a message. You can basically, it's like advanced, what's that SOS thing?
Morse?
Morse code. It's like a more advanced version of Morse code. And so you could send a specific packet of information from PDA to PDA. And this was the original idea for PayPal. That's correct. That's a great, great piece of lore, tech lore. So ARM starts to build these. Later, there's Robin Saxby, who was the CEO of ARM at the time. He wanted ARM to become the global standard for CPUs. And so in the 90s, there were lots of different CPU makers, lots of different architectures. There's this whole CISC versus RISC debate. There's the x86 architecture that Intel pioneers. And slight differences in architectures can limit interoperability. You see this with what's going on with Mac, where a whole bunch of applications have needed to be rewritten for Apple Silicon, because previously you would have an Intel Mac. Before we got to the M1, M2, M3, M4, M5 chips. Those are Apple Silicon, those are ARM-based. And sometimes you'll go to a website and it'll be like, oh, do you want to download this for a Mac? Like, what do you have? Do you have an Intel Mac or do you have an Apple Silicon Mac? Well, it's important because when you write the software that runs on the Mac, you need to use specific instruction sets. Now, there are ways to abstract that and run on either, but there are lots of pieces of software that interact with the CPU at a low enough level that they need to be aware of the instruction set. So ARM sets out to be the global standard for CPUs, and they create the ISA, the instruction set architecture, and that ultimately let Apple design their own chips, but within the architectural guidelines set forth by ARM. So Apple pays a license to ARM for every chip Apple sells. It's a very small license fee because Apple does a lot of design work. They do the manufacturing, the TSMC fabs it, and like there's a million other pieces of the value chain. But for this one little slice, they have to pay ARM. And ARM just takes that and says, thanks. Like, cool. Like, you used our intellectual property successfully.
You know who else says thanks?
Who?
Masayoshi Son.
That's true.
Because
huge ARM
they
investor.
own 90%, roughly 90% of the company. It was a full buyout in 2016.
That's right.
They bought the entire company for something around 25, 30 billion USD.
Yeah.
Buy the entire company. They still own 90%. Today. So they're like SoftBank's holdings just in that one company are somewhere in the range of 140 billion.
It's great.
What I was looking at.
And
of course they've massively
levered
levered.
$100 billion.
Well, and they've massively levered up against that position.
Yes,
right? They've raised debt against their holdings in ARM.
Yep.
But certainly Masa's somewhere out in the world seeing it go up 15%, just
happy,
smashing a gong somewhere.
I hope so. And although everyone knows Apple, my clickbait for my YouTube video was like, did you know the iPhone is secretly British? I think it's funny because it uses ARM deep inside. But ARM licenses to a ton of different tech companies. So Amazon uses ARM for the Graviton chips. A lot of Android phone makers have ARM-based chips. Tons of other tech companies license ARM's technology to build chips. But now ARM is going to be making the chips themselves, and they're going to be working with Meta Platforms and OpenAI. This means a shift in the economics of the business. So 97% gross margins for just those licensing ISA contracts. This will be closer to 50%. But it should be offset by the huge gains in market size and revenue potential. So the company has one of the highest multiples in semiconductors, roughly 90 times forward earnings. So there's a lot to live up to, but there's a lot of value coming from AI agents that have access to plentiful CPU resources. The industry dynamics are also particularly interesting. Ben Thompson pointed this out in Stratechery. So NVIDIA sells an ARM-based CPU, that Grace CPU. And so NVIDIA is sort of competing with ARM. Jensen showed up and gave like a remote talk at this ARM event where they announced this chip. And so they're competing, but they're also in some ways working together because they're challenging x86 options from Intel and AMD that are still really popular. And so if Intel's constrained, it's like if NVIDIA sells a bunch of chips for AI workloads, well then that actually makes ARM more likely to sell their chips as well because whatever software is built for the NVIDIA ARM-based chips will probably run on the ARM-based chips. So there's some sort of like integration there. And the x86 moat is not as strong as the CUDA moat, but there's still this like dynamic of NVIDIA and ARM are going up against Intel and AMD in the same way that that different GPU makers are going up against the CUDA mode. So there's like all these different interactions there. But it'll all be interesting to follow. Let's move on. The big news that drove this was, of course, Meta. Engineering at Meta said, today we're announcing a new partnership with ARM to collaborate on the development of multiple generations of purpose-built CPUs to support compute and AI infrastructure. ARM called it the ARM AGI CPU. What a great name. We love it. Let me tell you about Labelbox. RL environments, voice, robotics, data, evals, and expert human data. Labelbox is the data factory behind the world's leading AI teams. And let me also tell you about Sentry. Sentry shows developers what's broken and helps them fix it fast. That's why 150,000 organizations use it to keep their apps working. So, the Wall Street Journal has another good write-up of this story, talking about how the timing is good. There is a boom in CPUs right now, but the stock is already priced very highly, and everything has to go perfectly because it trades at one of the highest multiples of all the semiconductor companies. So What else is going on in the timeline?
Let's talk about this data center moratorium bill.
Yes.
I wrote in the newsletter yesterday, Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC introduced a new bill, the AI Data Center Moratorium Act of 2026, that if enacted would require all current and planned data centers to halt construction / production. It would even block upgrading existing data centers. So if you have an asset and you want to make changes to it, in theory, as this bill is written today, it would be blocked. They sort of like define data centers based on power demands, cooling capabilities, like how much power you can get to each individual rack. So they have been fairly specific, but trying to be like.
Because I was thinking I was fine with this. I was thinking like I don't need any more AI data centers at this point. We can freeze those. I just want to build AGI data centers and ASI data centers. And so as long as I can just build tons of those, like it should be fine. But it is interesting that they seem to have figured out the semantic loopholes that might happen if it's defined AI.
Yeah, the bill would halt all new data center construction and upgrades until more legislation is put in place to guarantee the following. And these will be tough to guarantee. So from Sanders' site, they want AI to be safe and effective, preventing executives in the AI industry from releasing harmful products into the world that threaten the health and well-being of working families, our privacy and civil rights, and the future of humanity. The economic gains of AI and robotics will benefit workers, not just the wealthy owners of big tech. And AI does not increase electricity or utility prices, harm communities, or destroy the environment.
Some of this stuff seems good.
Yeah, all generally good, but
no one wants
how do you
unsafe and ineffective AI.
Well, yeah, and the bigger problem is anytime you're creating. I don't think we've created a technology ever that didn't have some negative impact.
Car crashes,
for
example.
I'm sure this will be rewritten and debated, and obviously it has a long way to go before becoming law.
Yeah.
But this set of requirements seems completely impossible to actually achieve.
Well, it depends on how you define it. I mean, AI does not increase electricity or utility prices, like the ratepayer protection pledge and behind the meter stuff could.
I'm more talking about number one.
Number one, safe and effective. I mean, it's all in how you define that. Like some of the parental controls are a good example of like how to take that overarching thesis and then boil it down into something tractable. And when I hear that, I think like, I don't know how we are defining safe. I don't know how we're defining effective. Like this feels like this could be like some sort of very vague thing where like if one particular administration likes this company, they just approve it or not or whatever. Yeah. But then when we actually talk to lawmakers and you hear something like, oh yeah, we're going to require parental controls. So if your offspring has an AI account, you can say, hey, like they are this age, don't show them anything that's inappropriate for that age. That seems good.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Overall, at least this first bullet point, preventing executives in the AI industry from releasing harmful products in the world.
Yeah.
That feels like you could end up having something like an FDA that's like every product you create needs to go through years of studies in order for the government. Yeah. And it's like, hey, I just wanted to create like a slightly more AI native version of the SAS tool.
Yeah.
Do I really
want to make SAS?
I just want to make SAS.
Yeah.
Senator.
At the same time, like the bull case. I mean, I think the FDA model would really slow things down based on how long the FDA takes to approve things. Yeah. At the same time, what is the definition of harmful here? Is it net harmful products? Because that is the goal of the FDA. They release drugs all the time that have side effects. You take this, it cures your cancer, but it's going to make you throw up. Or it's going to make you lose your hair, and people are like, "Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that trade." And so, if you went through the government, and you said, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to give you this tool that can like write code, but sometimes it's going to hallucinate, and like you might get some code that doesn't pass tests." I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, like it speeds me up on average. I'm in. Like that's fine." And having some of those disclosures, and it's the same thing with knowledge retrieval. Like I do a deep research report, I get something that's 99% of the way there. Maybe there's something in there that's like, oh, that's actually like misattributed, or that number's, I know that number's from this report online that was wrong, and the model doesn't, and so I need to fact check it. Like, I still see that as like net beneficial, but there are, of course, like flaws in every system.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's like how does this get defined over time? That's like important.
One thing I noticed from the announcement was that they are using AI leaders' own statements against them, and it's easy to see how this would resonate with their constituents.
This is really powerful.
So on Sanders' websites, he included this quote.
Okay.
In December, Elon Musk, who leads xAI, said he had, quote, a lot of AI nightmares and would, quote, certainly slow down AI and robotics if he could.
It's so interesting because Elon doesn't talk about that with like the rollout of electric cars or the rollout of space travel. He's not saying like, oh yeah, like 2030 is too soon to get to Mars. Like we need to slow down on the race to the moon. Like let's really figure out the spacesuits first.
Yeah.
He's like, let's just go.
Yeah. And then another one, in January, Demis, the head of Google's DeepMind, said he would support an AI pause if he knew other countries and companies also paused development. In February, Dario Amodei, the head of Anthropic, said he was absolutely in favor of trying to slow down AI development if other countries also slowed down.
That was Davos, I believe, both January, February.
So continuing, I wrote, but the problem, of course, is that there is zero movement on getting other countries to slow down. I can imagine some companies that would be like...
There's already comments in the chat about like, let China win.
Yeah. I'm not going to name the countries that would be down to slow down, but I think we all know that China, even if they agreed to something like this, wouldn't just automatically do anything about it. So, but the problem, of course...
are there any countries that are like, we definitely should, we're ready to slow down? Like, we're France?
Well, I think if you're way behind, there's kind of a benefit,
There's a huge incentive.
Elon had said, I think in 2023, that he supported like a 6-month pause.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Because hey, if I could just have 6 months to like get my
I feel like if you pull
together.
people in the south of France or the Amalfi Coast, like those folks would say we should just slow down generally, like AI, but also just slow down our lives, enjoy a glass of wine, hit the boats.
Or even like a summer break.
Just a summer break,
kind of like 4 weeks.
Yeah. Or even like during the workday, like taking a break, taking a nap, just slowing down
Siesta.
generally. I think there's a lot of people that are just in favor of that.
Yeah.
But okay, Jordy, like if you're saying like people who are behind should want to like slow down, like doesn't that mean that China should be more in favor of slowing down?
That is interesting.
Well, I'm just saying, I can imagine in the same way that like for as many chips as we give them, advanced GPUs as we give them, you can assume they're still going to put an immense amount of pressure to kind of stimulate the local semiconductor industry.
Yeah.
In the same way here, I'm sure they would love for the United States to just pause all new data center construction. And I think it's possible that they would like generally say like, yeah, like this seems good, but then what would they actually do? They would just use that as an opportunity to catch up, right?
So my question is like, where does China actually stand on this? I'd be very interested to know. Maybe you could look it up. Like, has the Chinese Communist Party actually put out any statements about whether they want to accelerate or pause AI development? Because I think that they might refrain from taking that stance because it would discourage local, like indigenous development. Like, if the government is coming out and saying like, we want to slow down, then a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be like, okay, I'll go back to e-commerce or I'll go back to manufacturing. Like I'm not going to work on this because the government doesn't want me to. And so I feel like there's this tug and like, even though I agree with you, like it would be in their advantage to say, hey, we want to slow down. Everyone should slow down. We're pro slowdown. If they actually said that, it would have an immediate slowdown effect on the local AI progress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like it would slow down. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, because even if they just take that stance, because it's an authoritarian country, like there's like this, the Bernie Sanders comment stands in opposition to other politicians who are saying like, no, actually things are going well, and here's how we're going to like advance energy and to build more. And so, but if you don't have that and it comes down as like a dictate, this is the stance from the government, it's much harder for local entrepreneurs and local AI labs to like push back against that because it feels like they're all of a sudden in opposition to the government, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm very interested to hear how China's actually reacting.
Yeah, anyway, so just to kind of finish my thought, all these quotes like must go extremely hard if you're not kind of acknowledging the full picture, which is that the AI leaders are saying, if you get other countries to agree to slow down, we'd be open to it.
Yep.
But that is like the big elephant in the room. They don't mention any even conversations or dialogue with other countries around slowing down, and I don't think there's been any. So anyways, the act has a long way to go, and it seems like the odds of it getting into law are low, but not zero. It's safe to say that as written, the requirements in the bill would be an incredible gift to America's adversaries and catastrophic for overall AI progress.
Yeah. Could be popular, though. There are already some candidates who have, made pausing AI or data center, like pausing data center build-outs, sort of like their main thing. And it does seem to be getting traction. I don't know how much of that's just on social media. We'll see how it shows up in the midterms. But Sagar and Jetty was tracking this for a long time. Like, it's going to be a political stump speech that hits. Like, people are going to be like, I don't like this stuff.
Yeah, the question becomes, if anything like this were to become law, what are the effects of that, right? Space, right? The space data center people are saying like,
we were talking
space data centers don't seem so silly now, right? Taking that angle.
Totally.
Although I'm sure they would also be like, you can't put them up there either.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to.
Yeah, I mean, there's
come over the top.
also just like the globalization process that happened based around environmentalism in like the 90s WTO ascension for China. Like the reason that a lot of the mining happens in China is because like we said, like, we don't want that here, right?
Yeah.
It's dirty, it's gross, there's chemicals, there's pollution. And so like out of sight, out of mind, let's push it abroad. And we could do that again with data centers. We could just be like, they're all in Canada or Mexico, or they're all in some, Australia or New Zealand, or like, there could be a receptive country out there that just says like, we are an ally now, and we'd love to get all these data centers. And then you have to ask the question of like,
remember,
what does that look like in 30 years?
Data centers generate they don't create a lot of jobs locally. They create a meaningful amount of work during the development process.
And certainly
but then
some
they
jobs.
continue to generate massive amounts of local tax revenue.
Yeah, I actually don't know how you tax
like the data center
locally.
that was blocked, I think in New Jersey,
Yeah.
was going to be generating like tens of millions of dollars of local taxes.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
is
seems
that
great
just
if
real estate or? I mean, like one medium ground here is like just tax that and then use the tax revenue to
and the
internalize
environmental
it extra.
concerns. I think everybody should want to make sure that if we're investing hundreds of billions of dollars into these things, that we're not destroying our lovely Mother Earth.
Yeah.
But and the energy costs, again, real concern, but we're making progress there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me tell you about CrowdStrike. Your business is AI, their business is securing it. CrowdStrike secures AI and stops breaches. And let me also tell you about the New York Stock Exchange. Want to change the world? Raise capital at the New York Stock Exchange.
Do we want to talk about this Meta lawsuit?
This minor headline on the front page of the Wall Street Journal? It says, Meta, YouTube, found addictive, harmful. It's like one of the hardest hitting headlines I've ever seen on the front of the Wall Street Journal. For two companies that are usually relegated to the business and finance section, they made it to the front page because they were found guilty by California jurors. California jurors say the tech companies designed their apps to cause injury to kids. Very, very bad. But Brandon Gorell had a take and a write-up and some explanation of what's actually going on here. And then we are, of course, having Eric Goldman from Santa Clara University come on and break it down for us in more detail. Because there is a lot of debate about this. And it's been very interesting watching it play out. The total damages are, I think, $3 million each company, roughly $6 million total. And I had a friend who's a lawyer who texted me and sent me the number and was like, hey, I'm predicting that it'll be like 3M. And I didn't read the M, and I was like, okay, 3 billion, like, what did that do? This is not that big of a deal. And then it was 3 million. And I was like, that's extremely low compared to like the numbers that we normally see from big tech companies. But this has much broader implications because this is precedent setting, and there will be a flood of other cases.
Zack's like, I did spend all of my free cash flow on data centers,
Yes.
but if you give me another 2 seconds, I will have the
Yes.
have the cash flow to cover this. So just give me like 2 seconds.
Yes, but it is a very important case, even though this particular ruling is not changing the cash flow structure of these businesses, because it has a lot of ramifications and there's a lot more plaintiffs that are in the queue. So this is what Brandon Gorell wrote in our newsletter today, which you can sign up for at tvpn.com. Yesterday, a Los Angeles jury found both Meta and YouTube. It's fantastic. I want a lot of soundboard for this. Both Meta and YouTube liable for a 20-year-old woman's mental health crisis in a bellwether trial that treated platforms as, quote, defective products and potentially marks the end to the absolute immunity nature of Section 230. In the case, the plaintiff's lawyer, Mark Lanier, argued that Meta and YouTube built, quote, digital casinos that use neurobiological techniques similar to those employed by slot machines. Fun fact about ARM throwback, the first chip that the company, the precursor company, ever built was a chip that went into a slot machine. They call them fruit machines in England.
Fruit machine?
Fruit machines. They call them fruit machines because they have like the cherries and the strawberries and the bananas, and you line them up.
Got it.
And they needed chips to run those. So the iPhone traces its lineage, and Apple Silicon, and all this.
This goes much deeper.
It all goes back to literally gambling. Very fascinating. Anyway, so the jury found that specific features of Meta and YouTube are designed to be addictive. Infinite scroll creates an environment where there are no natural stopping points. Algorithmic recommendation feeds users highly engaging content. Autoplay removes users' agency in choosing whether or not to watch the next video. Notifications pull users back in by exploiting their need for validation. Instagram beauty filters contributed to the plaintiff's body dysmorphia. Features like the like button exploit users' biological need for societal approval. This is what the lawyer argued, the plaintiff's lawyer argued.
Shake Shack exploited my biological need for food.
Yes, there is this question. There was Taylor Lorenz had some great takes here. She said...
So Taylor has come out in the last like 48 hours, and I would say is like the number one defender of big technology.
Yeah.
She does have one of the top technology podcasts in the world.
She had a take that was like, so did Spotify addict you to music by playing like good songs for you on demand? And
this AI DJ is simply too good.
It's basically, I mean, that's kind of the
stop.
argument. They didn't obviously go after Spotify. They went after Meta and YouTube. But there's a question about like, you know, what UI features, what are dark patterns, and how do we regulate those? And it's very interesting. But the decision has been made, and these companies will have to pay $6 million to the plaintiff in total damages. This is obviously a trivial amount of money for these companies, but the bellwether nature of the outcome has significant implications for social media. There are over 10,000 individual personal injury cases, almost 800 school district claims, and 40 state-level cases pending nationwide that are similar to KGM versus Meta and YouTube. More broadly, the social media industry's reliance on Section 230, which has up to now shielded them from liability for user-generated content, may no longer be enough to protect them from litigation like this. Now, to be clear, this case is not attacking Section 230 because it's not making the argument that someone uploaded a video to YouTube that said, you should be sad, you should be afraid, it's over, and that made someone sad. That is the content that is user-generated. That is protected under Section 230. You might be able to go after the individual creator of that video. If I make a video that says, like, Jordy Hayes sucks and should be sad, and then you get sad, you might be able to sue me, I think. I don't know. But that's a little bit more defensible because it's like me on you, but you won't be able to sue YouTube for platforming that content, for putting that up in just general cases. But this is different because they went after the like button, the infinite scroll, the recommendation feeds, the features that are built by the platforms themselves. So if the decision makes it through appeals, and this might go all the way to the Supreme Court, we'll see, platforms may be forced to redesign their user experiences and algorithms, put up age verification, even deprecate infinite scroll. Obviously, changes like this would have an effect on both these platforms' ad-based revenue models. Meta and Google plan to appeal the decision, and it's not hard to imagine this one making it to the Supreme Court. Taylor's also been sounding the alarm bells around age verification. It sounds very good. I feel like I'm pro age verification based on, like, I have kids and I don't want them seeing adult content. But she was worried about the KYC and needing to be tracked, privacy, tracking anywhere, and that is a good argument to be made. Well, let me tell you about Graphite, code review for the age of AI. Graphite helps teams on GitHub ship higher quality software faster. And let me also tell you about 11 Labs. Build intelligent, real-time conversational agents. Reimagine human technology interaction with 11 Labs. We have to start apologizing to the schizophrenic community. There was a surveillance drone reportedly flown by infiltrator elements and disguised as a natural bird, such as an eagle, that has been spotted in Iran. This goes back to Taylor Lyons because I believe she worked with the folks behind the viral stunt "Birds Aren't Real," that was sort of a commentary on the conspiratorial nature of the internet. And in that stunt, they make the argument that birds need to be recharged and they're all spying on you and no birds are real. Of course, that is very satirical and funny. But apparently someone made a drone, organization made a drone that looks like a bird so it can sneak behind enemy lines and spy during the conflict, which is remarkable. But
do you think there will ever be video games that are effectively you're just remote piloting something in the real world?
Yes.
Like, do you think there would be demand for?
Yes. So I have heard of this years and years ago, that there was something along those lines that would allow you to hunt remotely. So you go to a website and you control a weapon that can hunt an animal, which is crazy. I don't know if it's real.
That's crazy.
But
do they close the loop, like help you actually get meat?
Yes. So after you down the animal, they will go and ship it to you, so you can mount it on your wall.
Dang. A lot of people.
Sort of.
A lot of people are not going to like that.
I don't think Joe Rogan would approve. He's a bow hunter, you know.
Yeah, he wants the connectivity with.
I think so. It's destroying the.
Now I'm
the
curious.
Art.
Is it a gun mounted to an ATV?
Not an ATV, but sort of like a two-axis
swivel,
like a
turret.
like a sniper rifle on a turret with a webcam. Pretty crazy. I don't know if this is real. I heard about this like years and years ago. Anyway, the reactions to the Meta and YouTube trial continue. Ariel Givner says, this is disgusting and I can't wait for the appeals. The precedent set by YouTube being liable for screen time addiction is kind of scary. Treating algorithms like a defective product opens the door to endless lawsuits over addictive tech. What's next? Books, video games, junk food? I mean, video games we got to do something about. Those things are too fun. Too fun. Truly, we got to make them.
Except you ascended. You beat your addiction.
Yeah, I definitely did.
You don't game anymore. You actually did.
No.
I mean, it might be one of those things like you're still addicted. You just
might have been playing a game earlier this week. Got a sneaky little 45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was good.
No.
Claire Obscura.
I'm gonna go look.
You got to pull me out. I'm addicted.
No, I'm gonna go look back at our text
Yeah.
and see like when did it take you 45 minutes to respond to something.
I mean, it was like Tuesday night or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna be coming after Eric Jorgensen.
Oh, yeah?
For the book of Elon.
Yes.
Because that just came out and Eric did a fantastic job.
Yes.
And I think it's highly addictive.
Can we sue this lawyer? Because this is one of the most interesting cases, and I actually can't pull myself away from it. And I feel like I'm just going to spend hours and hours reading about this lawsuit.
The filings.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's depressing. It's making me sad thinking about these tech companies having to pay fines, and it's just ruining my mood entirely. And it was like you can tell that the way the lawsuit was designed to take an emotional toll on me, suck me in, make me read all of the transcripts from the court, all the reporting, all the research, and eventually actually, talk to Eric Goldman from Santa Clara University on my show about this. Like, I just can't pull myself away from this. So,
Doom loop.
yeah, I think should he be held accountable for what he's doing? I don't know. We'll see. But there might be a lawsuit.
Meta, of course, trading down massively
Really?
today, almost 9%
Whoa.
off of this. And, there's some real concerns, right? If there's new legal risk, there's thousands of other kind of lawsuits floating out there. You might get more copycat lawsuits, class actions. And then the real question is, like, do they have to make any product level changes? Does that end up impacting time spent in the app, which will impact the advertising business? Such a weird one, because certainly I don't think back throughout.
The NASDAQ is also down 2% today, so there's a general sell-off. But yeah.
Yeah, general sell-off, but Meta down dramatically.
That's a
more
lot,
than that,
yeah.
hundreds of billions of dollars. Yeah, this is a weird one on a personal level, because on one hand, my kids, I'm gonna keep away the infinite scroll machine as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Right. And I will, I don't think back on the time that I've spent on social media and think, wow, I'm so glad I put in those long hours and I really put in the work.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem that addictive to me. I can pull myself away like anytime. It's not a big deal. It's just not a big deal.
We lost it. It just sounds like
This place.
Dinner picks our honeymoon. Okay, you just gotta get more.
Ask you a question.
If you follow me, I'll double your bank account.
Well, on Instagram, okay.
I mean, this is good
Just
content.
follow me.
This is the route you would have to take if you want to go to.
This is my subscriber.
And this is my subscriber.
this is such a
Hey, Jimmy.
such a good.
This is the final mystery box.
This is fine.
Yeah. Hey,
It's fine. We're going to get back to the show in a little bit. It's not a big deal.
Not be surprised at college classroom.
It's
I was
fine.
like, I grabbed 100 people.
We lost
He
it.
grabbed 100 people. Okay,
We
I
lost
actually have
it.
to know that he took
Can't
people
stop.
that are ages 1 all the way to 100, and he's having them taste test Lunchly. I got to watch this.
It's the world's largest LED floor.
Okay, it's the largest
Are you just
LED
scrolling
floor.
Mr. Beast?
It's the world's
No,
largest.
this is just my normal
It's
feed.
described as the best TV
What's yours
show.
like?
If I-
I am scrolling Mr. Beast.
It's so funny because I think whatever that was completely inverted from a meditation soundtrack, right? It's just like
It's so insane. Anyway, let me tell you about MongoDB. What's the only thing faster than the AI market? Your business on MongoDB. Don't just power AI. Don't just build AI. Own the data platform that powers it. And let me also tell you about Cisco. Sorry. Critical infrastructure for the AI era. Unlock seamless real-time experiences
Never
and new
apologize.
value with Cisco.
never apologize. for Cisco.
well,
no,
you
so the funny thing is how addictive are the apps themselves? Can they argue that the apps themselves?
Yeah.
It's really not us.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen some people's channels not very addictive.
Yeah.
Like it takes
Yeah,
a lot to
in many
make entertaining
ways, like our content, right? We talk about niche subjects
Yeah.
in technology and business. There's a lot of content on YouTube that is far, far, far more addictive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, I've generally had a good experience on social media.
you know what else is addicting?
What?
High-speed trains.
Oh, you want to skip to high-speed trains? You don't want to do?
We can come back to that.
Okay, we can come back to that one. What's going on with this? So in China, high-speed trains have become a sightseeing attraction. This is a good. I would definitely go to this. I would 100% just go see the high-speed train rip through the countryside. That looks amazing. I love it.
Also, this is the most incredible video of China that I've ever
It's
seen.
so
Like,
beautiful.
what is this mountain range
It's
at
so
sunset?
beautiful.
I think people are posting up there even if the train isn't there. This
Yeah,
is
that
like one of the
might
most
be it. You
beautiful.
think that secretly everyone there is like, boo, the train ruined my beautiful view. Because like they could just be sitting there watching the amazing sunset and
Yeah,
landscape.
that guy's leaning forward as
Yeah,
the
I
train
think they're
goes
pumped
by.
up. I think they're cheering. That's great. Where else do you want to go?
We can go back to this article.
Okay. Because I need to know where everyone stands. I need to know where do you stand on shoplifting? Are you pro or anti? Are you pro or anti?
I'm anti.
You're
There we
anti-shoplifting.
go.
What about you?
There we go. I had one moment as a kid when
Yeah.
I think I took a piece of candy,
Oh.
and my parents immediately Took me back.
I'm going to put you under citizen's arrest right now.
Yeah, it's time for a citizen's arrest. No, it took me back, and I was like the most deeply embarrassing moment. That's like a core memory of telling
Everyone
them
sort of
like
needs to learn that.
And I think it was at an age that I didn't really know that it was wrong. But still.
Well, that's not what's going on, actually. So the Wall Street Journal wrote a piece about in free expression. Emma Camp wrote this op-ed. And there's a new generation of the Campinator. There's a new generation of shoplifters who aren't children who should have learned their lesson a long time ago, but are actually fairly affluent and are just sort of sneaking out luxury good. I think that's a piece of it. But she makes a very compelling argument for why this is a very bad thing.
We need to make skydiving more accessible.
Okay.
Like Explain. If skydiving was $1
for the thrill,
$1 a dive.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might say, "I'm just going to go skydiving today. I'm not going to steal anything."
Well, I mean, Ben on our team is working on a new weather report that
or
will
jet
take
ski
you on a tour
racing
of thrilling things to do.
Yeah, if we could make jet skis more accessible, universal basic jet ski.
I like that.
I think a lot of people would say, "I don't have time to steal. I'm getting ready for the race later."
Yeah, my cortisol is super low. I don't need to spike it by sneaking something out. So at least once a week, as I begin my commute from home. From a midtown Manhattan subway station, I see someone in a suit and tie dodge the fare. Well, it isn't always a suit. Sometimes it's a chunky gray J. Crew sweater and ballet flats. Each time I see the fare evader slip through an open emergency exit or casually hop over the turnstile, a wave of outrage bubbles within me, says Emma Camp in the Wall Street Journal, free expression. And I consider shouting out after the shameless thief. You should do it. I am in favor of yelling at fare dodgers in this case. But before I can work up the courage, he's melted into the crowd. It's tempting to give fare hoppers and shoplifters the benefit of the doubt and assume that they are all Jean Valjeans. Do you get that reference?
No.
Les Mis. You got to see Les Mis. Jean Valjean is the pinnacle of morality. He steals a loaf of bread for his family because they're starving, goes to jail, gets revenge. It's a great story.
Back.
You will love it. You should see it on in a theater because it is, of course, a live stage production many times. But there's also there's also a great movie with Liam Neeson. The Liam Neeson one is the one you want to see.
There we go.
The Liam Neeson Les Mis is amazing. I think I have that right. But that's far from the truth. Well, according to one 2025 survey, and this was what was interesting about this article, the likelihood that someone would purposefully take an item at self-checkout without scanning actually increased with income. So the rich get richer. The rich are stealing from the rich. A viral article in Curbed, a site published by the New York Times by New York Magazine, paints a vivid picture of this kind of thief, a member of a certain subset of the city's wealthy-ish, as writer Nora Delighter puts it. For whom a little shoplifting on your grocery run has become about as mundane as jaywalking. This isn't exactly surprising. A report from the Council on Criminal Justice released earlier this year found that while reported shoplifting decreased during the pandemic, rates have returned to roughly pre-pandemic
Wait, did they just decrease
levels.
because people were ordering groceries online?
I think so. I think so. If you're not in the store, you can't steal anything. You gotta hack the system or something. It becomes a cyber crime to steal from DoorDash. But rates have since returned roughly to pre-pandemic levels. This New York Magazine profile in Curbed profiles several shoplifters who were caught stealing from Whole Foods. None were acting out of necessity, and most stole what can accurately be described as luxury goods: $30 eye cream, strip steak, fancy organic chocolate. None expressed guilt. And one explicitly justified her actions as being in a kind of artist's subsidy. Petty theft is a vice for a certain kind of loser. Go off, Emma Camp. I love this. Many of those profiled in this article are creative types: photographers, graphic designers, sculptors, and musicians. Presumably, these people are highly educated but downwardly mobile. They steal because they feel entitled to the kind of life where they can thoughtlessly drop $50 on French cheese and sushi rolls while paying Manhattan rent. They can't indulge in such luxuries feels to them like a moral outrage, one that can be rectified in some small ways by taking what's owed to them. When shoplifters justify their actions online. They make themselves out to be Robin Hoods. They claim it's good to steal from large and therefore evil corporations. This is a teenager's leftism, one in which fighting the man means ripping him off. It's a post hoc justification for a baser impulse, the belief that everything you want should be free. This motivation is made particularly clear when people justify fare evasion, given that public transportation is inherently not a big private enterprise. It's not a megacorp. It's taxpayer dollars that you're stealing from. Even when we grant the assumption that large companies are inherently evil, which, for the record, I don't, says Emma Camp in the Wall Street Journal, that doesn't justify stealing from them. If thou shalt not steal doesn't work for you, consider another argument. Petty theft damages the institutions and businesses in a community, making them materially worse for your neighbors. You may think you aren't hurting anyone. Actually, you're hurting everyone. Businesses hike prices to make up for shoplifting losses. Have you heard of loss? It's called loss rates or something. Like every retail store just assumes that they're going to get 20% or 5% or some.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
It can be high.
Probably.
It can be high in some stores. Like significant amount of merchandise just gets loss prevention is the term that they focus on, but it's a constant problem for these businesses. And they have thin margins. People don't realize. I think people think grocery stores because you go and check out and it's $100 or something. It's they're making a ton of money, but the margins are very, very thin on those.
Yeah.
It's not ARM. They're not licensing IP to Apple. They may even close. Public transportation crumbles without sufficient revenue from riders. As journalist Kelsey Piper put it in a post on X, when you shoplift, you directly and unambiguously impoverish your community. That bar of chocolate you swiped isn't nothing. That little pot of eye cream you slipped into your purse is more than a rounding error on a corporate balance sheet. What you're doing ultimately creates a worse, less functional, less trustworthy society, and even shoplifters need a place to get groceries.
The comment section is agreeing with Emma. They said, well said, and I'll extend it but beyond just shoplifting to include things like buying something with the intent of returning it after using it for a few days. I remember someone buying a grill at Lowe's with the intent of using it for the weekend and then returning it, which they did. Okay. Yeah, steaks didn't really come out that well. I don't think it was me. I think it was the grill. I'm not a big returns guy. Costco does have a huge return policy. It's so interesting. The Coogan or the Hayes mind cannot comprehend the return. I've maybe returned 2 things in the last 10 years. It's just not an impulse that I have. Because you're deeply in touch with everyone. So funny. Anyways, we can.
Okay, let me tell you about TurboPuffer.
Please.
Serverless vector and full-text search, built from first principles on object storage, fast, 10x cheaper, and extremely scalable. And let me also tell you about Gemini 3.1 Pro. With a more capable baseline, it's great for super complex tasks like visualizing difficult concepts, synthesizing data into a single view, and bringing creative projects to life. And thank you. The clapping in the studio is at an all-time high now that we're back to full strength in the TBP and Ultradome. So
that's right.
Will Manitis is giving some more context around anti-AI backlash. He says, in case you're skeptical that anti-AI backlash will become a central issue in the next election cycle, Sanders just introduced a bill to halt all new data center construction and require the federal government to review and approve AI products before release. Interestingly, this idea of an AI FDA, the first time I heard about this concept was on the All In podcast. I believe Chamath Palihapitiya was making the point that an AI FDA was something worth considering. I think he's evolved his position, but it was something that, the first time you learn about the possibility of a fast takeoff, the possibility of AI doom, it seems really rational to say, well, let's review everything beforehand. But then there's natural effects and there's limitations to the models, and we can't even do a puzzle on RKGI. So maybe there's a little bit more work to be done. Maybe there's a few more data centers to build before we actually get good things out of these models. But
Noah Smith wrote a piece that I think is relevant to the data center moratorium, which is AI has the worst sales pitch I've ever seen. And his quote, "Our product will make you economically useless and possibly kill you." He says it's not a value proposition. AI leaders need to change their public messaging and fast. We don't need to read through all
No,
this,
you
but
need to read this quote. He opens with this quote. Hi, do you have a moment? I'm from the Cursed Microwave Company. Our product is much better than a traditional microwave. Not only can it automatically and perfectly cook all your food, it also microwaves your whole body so you and your family are paralyzed and unable to work ever again. Don't worry though, because when everyone has a cursed microwave, our society will probably implement universal basic income and you and your children can just go on welfare. Oh, by the way, we estimate that there's a 2 to 25% chance that our microwaves will put out so much radiation that they destroy the entire human race. If a door-to-door salesman came and gave me this pitch, I would gently see him out the door and then quickly call the FBI. But this is only a modestly exaggerated version that the pitch that the big AI labs, OpenAI and Anthropic, are making to the world about their technology. And I completely agree with this. It's very important that AI lab leaders, focus on the actual tangible benefits of the technology right now. Like, I think there's this. You keep identifying this disconnect between like people are afraid of AI and there's so much fear-based marketing, but then like every single person, like 1 billion people are just using ChatGPT to like get answers.
Yeah.
And every person you talk to, no matter how, they can tell you for 20 minutes, lay out a very cogent thesis of AI doom, what might happen, Terminators. They can take you on this very reasonable scenario. And then 5 minutes later, the topic changes and they'll tell you how they use ChatGPT to plan their vacation or something like that. And this disconnect just like cannot last.
Yeah. I wrote on January 9th. The phrase techlash was originally coined by Adrian Wooldridge in The Economist in 2013. He correctly predicted that the big developments of 2014 will be the growing peasants' revolt against the sovereigns of cyberspace. Mm-hmm. The Silicon elite will cease to be regarded as geeks who happen to be filthy rich and become filthy rich people who happen to be geeks. Over the coming years, the world experienced the Cambridge Analytica scandal, fear around the mental health impacts of social media on young people, and growing concerns around monopoly power in our digital world. The internet and the platforms that dominate it began to test the core foundations of our country and the free world: privacy, democracy, censorship, and more. The second tech clash has begun, this time because the average American believes that technology, specifically AI, is now a threat to their very way of life. Starting at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Americans have heard that data centers use a lot of water. They heard their power bill is probably going to go up because of it, or already have. They've seen the movie Terminator and have imagined how that might go from science fiction to reality.
Watch Terminator. You still haven't seen it, right?
No, I have seen Terminator.
You have? Have you seen Terminator 2?
Probably not.
You're killing me.
John, it's enough to ask me to finish one movie. Now you're like, oh, you got to see the sequel.
Two is the best one, I think. But the end of Terminator, it's a good ending. The humans win, and we beat the robots.
Yeah.
It's a good outcome. You got to push back on that?
No, I was going to add, so earlier we were talking about like China and like how is China thinking about some stuff.
So
I found some
tell us,
anecdotes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Xi Jinping is like, if you basically compare like Chinese government to U.S. government, Chinese government is probably like much more concerned about safety than the U.S. is.
Okay, interesting.
Like there's all these things like, so Xi Jinping.
We don't want other people to be able to do surveillance as well as we have been doing.
Yeah, there's always like the take, which is like, if you're super concerned about safety, well, what does that mean? You need this oversight over everything, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like, if you're China, you want to be authoritarian. That's like the thing you're going to do.
Yep.
But basically, he was like, he shared this. It was from Time, a rare Politburo study session on AI, warning of unprecedented risks. Mm-hmm. It's listed. AI safety is listed alongside pandemics and cyber attacks in their National Emergency Response Plan. He's also said. He stressed the need for monitoring, early risk warning, and emergency response. Right, so it's like that's like about safety, but also monitoring. Right?
No.
It's kind of.
I wonder how this interfaces with the Bernie Sanders position. Like, will there be some sort of like open discussion? Bernie's going around doing a lot of different conversations. That would certainly be like the next step if he wants to get through the geopolitical pushback.
Even when you talk to a lot of like the pause AI people, very few of them are like ever really say the U.S. needs to pause regardless of what China does. It's always like we need to have international agreement on it, because otherwise like it obviously doesn't work.
Totally.
Yeah, if everyone could just give their GPUs to Tyler, he will watch after them.
He can be trusted.
He can be trusted.
The
Giga cluster.
Yes.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So this story will continue to evolve.
That's good info. Thank you.
Rune hit 300K. He says time to
Massive.
docs on TBPN.
Okay, let's do it. 300K, that's massive. Let's go. Congratulations.
Boom, boom, boom.
I
Spore
think
says
we hit the gong at 250 too. every time there's a Rune milestone, we must celebrate it to the fullest.
Spore says
Really quickly, let me tell you about Cognition. They're the makers of Devin, the AI software engineer. Crush your backlog with your personal AI engineering team. And let me also tell you about Console. Console builds AI agents that automate 70% of IT, HR, and finance support, giving employees instant resolution to access requests and password resets. Continue.
Let's pull up one of the greatest videos created in the last year.
Ooh, yeah.
Spore says, R.I.P. Sora, you gave us the greatest AI video of all time.
Yes.
Let's play it.
This was a great video. I did enjoy this one.
Sound, please.
Yeah,
Stop that! It's midnight! Give me that! No, sir. No more fiddle tonight. Got it?
No
Inside
more
with this
fiddle
thing.
tonight.
Go home. Hey, what did I say about the noise? It's the middle of the night. No more synth on the porch.
The door
Yep, you're
cam,
done. I'm taking it inside.
the
Go
Sora
back to your
model,
bed.
I don't know what was in the training data, but it nailed this like doorbell footage. Like the graininess really leans into the flaws and it hides the flaws in the model. When you try and do something that's photoreal, it looks a little waxy still, but this is just perfect. And it's too low res to detect like, oh, the finger's perfect or whatever. That's a good instrument. That's fun. She really hits the cat with that door.
Inside with it. Go
It's
home.
absolutely insane. Yeah. Well, the didgeridoo.
Knock it
Oh.
off. It's midnight. Give me that
Here's the thing.
Hit.
Here's the thing.
No more didgeridoo
Human
tonight, you hear me?
creativity.
Yeah.
You had to string all these together. This
Yep.
was not one shot. This is like
No.
This is like 10 prompts.
I've done it. I've gone to ChatGPT and said, like, think of a funny prompt, and it doesn't come up with something as novel as this. Otherwise, I would be the creator of that. Hey, that's our gong.
Knock it off. Midnight.
That's literally our gong. Or her former gong.
Our former gong.
Yeah. It's nice.
We made it into the training data.
Hey,
Is that
midnight aerobics now? The whole porch is
aerobics?
shaking.
Okay.
Volume down, pause off the neighbor's nerves.
Silent
At least
disco.
Cool down before 3 a.m., okay?
It's good. I love it. Yeah, the Sora news is interesting. I mean, obviously good as a reflection on like, okay, era of focus. We heard that news from like a week ago. This is like a very clear step in like refocusing. There is a question about like the value of models. Like Sora jumped ahead of Meta Vibes very quickly. Meta Vibes launched like a week before, and when Sora came out, the consensus was like, oh wow, this is like definitely a step above of what you can do with Vibes, which was much more like an animated picture from Midjourney. It had cool aesthetics, but it was way less like it was very constrained in terms of what you could do with Sora. You could automatically insert different cuts, generate something that looked a lot more like a native reel, even if there were sort of rough edges. But the question with every model is, you spend money to train it, and then it has ongoing inference costs, the cost of a video model. It feels immense because I went back and looked at some of the first Sora videos that I generated. I'm thinking of me in the orange and white suit.
Yes.
One of the greatest AI videos. We'll have to play it at some point. But that one felt like it had about 1,000 times as much compute allocated to it than the last one that I generated, because I generated a Sora like a week before this announcement, and it does feel like they had shifted the GPU workloads to maybe codecs, because that was the product that was taking off. What do you think?
Yeah, there were some rumors where they were spending something like $10-15 million a day on compute for Sora, which
That's
is like
a lot.
like $3.5 billion a year or something, something in this range.
Yeah.
So it's like so much compute just on inference, and it's like, what's the actual value of it?
Yeah. And if it's not monetizing with crazy ad rates immediately or crazy API costs, like you're just in GPT-2 territory, where Greg Brockman came on and told us that, I don't know, they spent probably millions of dollars training GPT-2, and they were like, we had to pay people to use it. Like every dollar of inference was negative margin. We were losing money on every token generated. And then GPT-3 was in a similar boat. It was like almost there, but they weren't really making any money for it. And then the GPT-4 training run happens, and that, I mean, looking back, that has to be an incredibly profitable model, because I think it maybe cost $100 million to train, and then the inference cost, like they distilled the model pretty quickly, got to a place where I think that was very, very ROI positive based on the subscriptions during that time before they rolled out 5. And then, you're always facing this battle of like, a little bit of a Red Queen's race, training the new model, depreciating the model across whatever the inference margin you get during the period where you have the best model.
Mitchell Green went on Invest Like the Best, and Patrick pulled out one of Lead Edge. He said Lead Edge is probably most famous for this letter. Mitchell calls it the hierarchy of BS. It's his way of distilling what he learned from cold calling 10,000 companies. And I will go through it. If companies have good cash profits, they report those. If companies don't have good cash profits, they report on adjusted profits. If companies don't have good adjusted profits, they report on gross profits. If companies don't have good gross profits, they report on revenue. If companies don't have good revenue, they report it on adjusted revenue indicators like GMV. If companies don't have good GMV, they report on monthly active users. If companies don't have good monthly active users, they report on subscribers. If companies don't have good subscribers, they report on downloads. If companies don't have good downloads, they report on page views. If companies don't have good page views, they report on what they were voted the best place to work in XYZ city. Right now, this
it's very funny because the only news that we've shared from TVPN is that we're like the 42nd most innovative company recently, but we're not a public company. If you want to trade a public company, go over to public.com. Investing for those who take it seriously. Stocks, options, bonds, crypto, treasuries, and more with great customer service. I want more of your take on this.
People that flex how many lines of code they're writing.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like if your product doesn't have any users or revenue, you just report on lines of code.
Lines of code per year run rate is a crazy one I saw recently.
LOCRR.
That's an insane stat. But we have the solution. It will be released soon. Do you have a general update, Tyler?
Yeah. What's the timeline,
I know
Tyler?
You're traveling.
Did you when you went on the road? Did you stop?
Walking in?
Work. The project can be done today, tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah. Does it have sound effects yet?
It does not yet have.
Okay, then
let's
it's
do
not ready to ship.
Yeah, in a day or two.
Just one more
the
prompt.
fundamental mechanics.
Okay.
I was fine tuning
Tomorrow at
Jordy,
12:07. Chat.
Jordy,
ask Tyler
the project,
status of the product.
The project is not done yet, but I talked to Tyler and he said he's generating 25,000 lines of code an hour in advancing of this project. So, I mean, he's clearly putting out a lot of code, and that will translate to a great product eventually.
Yeah. The best entrepreneurs I know
Yeah.
are generating millions of lines of code daily
Yes.
just to
Yes.
keep their about page
Yes.
up and running and humming.
About page. Rough. Well, let me tell you about Restream. One live stream, 30 plus destinations. If you want to multi-stream, go to restream.com. Just do it. Gwen Shotwell is on the cover of Time magazine. SpaceX is racing to build the most powerful rockets yet with the goal of returning humans to the moon. Gwen Shotwell is leading the charge alongside Elon Musk. This is a good deep dive. You should go check it out. The first YouTube video I ever made that went viral or like broke out, because when you have
why is no one talking about Glenn Shotwell?
Literally, that was not exactly the title.
So not literally,
but that was the whole premise. That was the whole premise. Yeah. And normally I think I had 1,000 subscribers, and so getting like 1,000 views was like, okay, this is great. And if you can get more views than subscribers, that's like a banger. What was it called?
The title was "The Only Reason SpaceX Works."
There we go. That
in parentheses, Gwen Shotwell.
That might have been retitled that a few times, but you get the idea.
Anyways, no surprise that Gwen Shotwell
is running
a company that is shooting things.
Rockets into the atmosphere.
No surprises.
Well.
FT has some reporting on the SpaceX IPO. Bankers involved are toying with the idea of allowing existing shareholders to sell out of their positions on day one, two of the people said.
Wow.
That would do away with rules to prevent insiders cashing out or trading shares, which are typically imposed for 180 days after
normally
a company
there's
goes
a
public.
lockup. I would think there would be rolling lockups.
A third person said SpaceX is considering a so-called staggered lockup that would allow initial investors to slowly sell down their stakes over the course of several months. The deal is, quote, too big of an IPO to just unlock.
Yeah.
Musk's influence over the size and timing of the listing has been highly unusual, said one investor close to a banker on the deal. It's kind of scary how Elon is setting the price. It's not being done formally.
Oh, interesting. It's not a full auction format. He says, this is the price, and you can either buy or not, and hopefully you buy. Yeah, interesting. The staggered lockup, it feels like it makes a lot of sense. You could just see, okay, this person's held these shares for 20 years, this person held it for 10 years, they get a 180-day lockup, a 90-day lockup, a 270-day lockup, whatever you want. I don't know.
Just imagine how much money the lawyers are going to make from unwinding all the different
SPVs.
entities and the SPVs and the SPVs and the forward contracts with the SPVs into the forward. It's going to be
full employment for lawyers, for sure.
XAI co-founder Croix,
are you Australian now?
Manuel Croix,
Okay.
is departing the company, which is, I think, officially the last co-founder
Wow.
remaining outside of Elon. So
That's remarkable. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the next run, the next version of Grok does. Is there a new 4.2 came out? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago,
Like
so we're expecting like a 5 or a
two.
4.3 soon. But
Yeah, I don't know if anyone expected super soon.
yeah,
Right, because they're kind of revamping the whole thing.
yeah.
But-
I wonder what they'll try to do with ArcAGI v3 because they were the 4th lab that tested, and they were the only lab that got 0%. Although I don't know how much worse that is than getting 0.25%, but certainly. It'll be interesting. Ryan Peterson had an idea for Elon Musk. He said, if Tesla makes a car with 3 rows of seats, each with its own pair of doors, so nobody has to climb over everybody else to get in their seat, they will create a baby boom, the likes of which we haven't seen in 80 years. And Elon Musk says, noted. Would you buy a car with 3 sets of doors? It would look extremely odd. It wouldn't be the very iconic, but that's sort of Tesla's thing, and the Cybertruck stands out on the
the
road.
Model Y SL,
SL.
size lowered.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, so the YL
yeah,
has 3 rows.
yeah. But it has 2 sets of doors.
Yeah.
4 doors.
I don't
a 6-door
know, I don't
car.
know how big. I don't know.
Someone has to have done this at some
Like,
point, a 6-door
having
car.
a kid jump in and just crawl to the back. We did that back in my day.
Back in your
it was
day?
up when you climbed in that door.
Yep.
It was uphill to the 3rd row.
Yep.
Both and then uphill on the way out.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was a nightmare.
It was a
But
nightmare.
We did it.
Yeah. But it made you who you
me
are.
into the man I am today.
Yeah, and so you don't want easy street, extra doors
No
in the
way.
back. No way.
No way.
Your kids are gonna be climbing. They're gonna be climbing all over the seats.
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like Tesla's entire strategy from a merchandising standpoint has
Mm-hmm.
just been to make like more and more, as much as possible, just make the lowest number of cars.
Yeah.
And so he's getting all this feedback, but they already have like a 6-seater coming
Yeah.
out.
Okay,
have it.
someone shared an image.
Yeah, this
that
is
may or
the
may not
data
be
that-
real.
that
The
you were talking about
Brewster
yesterday.
Stageway. The Brewster Stageway, the world's oldest and largest manufacturer of custom multi-passenger vehicles, and it's a Suburban that was converted, and it comes with 6 or 8 door models, so you can have rows and rows. I don't know if you can scroll down and find it. It's from Talos Dreams in the replies there, but I don't know. Anyway, where do you want to go?
Meek Mill says, I'm getting $250 for a tweet.
Oh, interesting.
I was fascinated because he's gone on like this big
Yeah,
tear
it's done.
of like promoting AI,
Yeah.
specifically Claude, and so
What is,
trying-
what is Nikita Beer going to say about this if he's getting paid and not
is
checking that
he basically
box?
just saying like I'm doing
SpotCon?
undisclosed paid promotions
I don't know.
because he's certainly getting more than 250 likes.
Yeah, I don't know. He got about 250 retweets on this, 295. So I don't know. It's possible. Let me tell you about Okta. Okta helps you assign every AI agent a trusted identity, so you get the power of AI without the risk. Secure every agent. Secure any agent with Okta. And let me also tell you about Lambda. Lambda is the superintelligence cloud building AI supercomputers for training and inference that scale from 1 GPU to hundreds of thousands. And I believe we have our next
Peaceland.
guest.
Last thing before we go into our first guest.
Sure.
We have to pull up this post from Peaceland. He says, "I've seen some fire fits in China, but I've never seen a jacket this hard in my life. and the back of this guy's jacket just says, "Mr. Enjoy the Money."
MEDM?
MEDM, Mr. Enjoy the Money. This is
Apparently that's a legit brand. That is very tough. I like it, Mr.
This might be the new meta.
This might be. The puffer jacket with the stitching on the back is very nice. There's a lot of fun examples of other swag in the replies. Well, without further ado, let's bring in Eric Goldman from Santa Clara University. He's the Associate Dean for Research and a professor there. Eric, how are you doing?
What's going on?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining. Please, since it is the first time on the show, I'd love a little bit of an introduction, and then, of course, I want to go into the case today.
Sure. I'm Eric Goldman. I'm a professor of law and associate dean for research at Santa Clara University School of Law. I've been doing internet law for over 30 years, teaching, researching in the area. And my area of specialization includes how users talk to each other online.
Okay. And when did you start tracking the Meta YouTube lawsuit? How long has this been going on? And then I want to hear about your expectations for the case, your interpretations of the case, how things played out.
So I started tracking the cases when they were filed. I can set up electronic alerts to notify me of new filings in the cases. And I had to give that up after a while. These parties were just beating each other up in court with an enormous volume of very picayune filings. So I stopped tracking at that level a while ago. It's hard to track the state court cases. There isn't an electronic tracker for that. So it's been a little bit harder to get the information in that case. And this has been going on for a couple of years, and many millions of dollars have been spent by both sides in these cases.
So take us through what actually happened, how we should be interpreting the verdict, and then we'll go into where we go from here.
So we need to step back for a moment and let me describe the landscape, and then we'll see how this case fits into it.
Yeah.
In California State Court in Los Angeles, there have been hundreds of plaintiffs who filed lawsuits against the social media services. These cases have been joined together in a proceeding, but they're not a class action. So there's hundreds of parallel lawsuits all sitting next to each other. A similar lawsuit is also pending in federal court in Northern California. It's called a multi-district litigation, or an MDL. And there are thousands of plaintiffs in that case as well. Similar format. They're sitting next to each other. It's not a class action. That case also includes entities like school districts and Native American tribes. So there's other entities in that as well. And then there have been individual filings across the country by state attorneys general and others in the lawsuits. So there's basically just a litigation mania taking place across the United States.
Yeah.
And what does it actually take to qualify a plaintiff? Do they just look at their screen time and say, like, oh, you used social media for 5 hours last week, you're addicted, and then they kind of figure out how to kind of,
turn it into an actual suit?
There is no screening for who gets named as a plaintiff. They just raise their hand and say, I think I qualify.
Okay.
And they've been joining these lawsuits. The lawyers, of course, are helping them, and each lawyer is trying to add to their portfolio of plaintiffs that they have that they're representing. But whether they're actually going to get any recognition from the court or money, they'll have to make their case eventually. So that's part of why the trial was held that led to the verdict that came out this week. What they did in the California State Court case is they said, we're going to pick 3 plaintiffs, and we're going to do what are called bellwether trials. We're going to let the parties make their case to the jury, and we're going to see what the jury thinks. The goal was to do 3, not just 1, with the idea that plaintiffs have so many different stories. The victims are each in their own unique situation, that we wanted to get multiple data representations from the pool of plaintiffs to start to be able to estimate the overall value of the case. So the first one came out, and the jury agreed with the plaintiffs, did not agree with the defendants, and awarded $6 million of damages. Now, this is just the first data point of what's expected to be 3 just in the state court case. There's lots of activity taking place throughout the country.
So how should we think about the actual ruling? The Wall Street Journal has a headline: Meta and YouTube found addictive and harmful. How are you interpreting the nature of what the plaintiff attorney proved?
At the core, the plaintiff's lawyers had to make a number of novel arguments, both to the judge to get to the trial, and then in front of the jury, they had to convince the jury to recognize the harms that the victim suffered and attribute them back to social media services. And the jury agreed with all of that. And so the way to interpret this verdict is that we've now heard from some ordinary Americans, I don't want to say, metaphorically picked off the street, and asked them, how do they feel about the accountability of social media services for the harm that of their users? And the jury said, we think that the social media services should be responsible, and we should assign some pretty significant dollar values to that responsibility.
Is $6 million seen as a significant dollar value in the courts because these companies are so big? But again, this could just be the beginning of a wave.
Multiply it by potentially thousands.
Yeah. So where does this go in terms of the damages as they snowball? Will there be a class action, some sort of master settlement that goes way bigger?
Just about the numbers for a moment. $6 million is far less than what the plaintiffs requested. It's far more than I think the defendants had hoped. And as you were pointing out, if you multiply it times 3,000 potential plaintiffs that are already in the queue, that translates into something on the order of like $20 billion. Yeah. Again, maybe numbers that Meta and Google have, but TikTok and Snap, if they're also going to be coming along for the ride in this, maybe they don't have that. Yeah. Maybe that becomes uneconomic. So the numbers grow, I think, really rapidly because not only is it the people who've already filed, it's all the other potential users who will say, just like you were suggesting earlier, who will say, I've been addicted for 5 hours on my site. There could be tens of thousands of more plaintiffs coming through. The numbers on this could get extraordinary. Now, remember, this is only one data point. The other two bellwether cases could establish no liability, or they could assign much larger damages. Yeah. And so we'll see if that $6 million is even the right number for the parties to start estimating the settlement.
Sure. So will those other bellwether cases for sure resolve before this gets appealed? Do you anticipate that this ruling will get appealed all the way to the Supreme Court? How do you think about the interaction between the bellwether cases and then other legal proceedings?
I believe that the appeals are going to be lodged now, but I would expect that by the time that the appellate court is ready to hear the appeals, the other two cases will have been resolved, and ideally, they'll be all handled together. Whoever doesn't get the results they want in the other two bellwether trials would go ahead and appeal those as well. All these cases are going to be appealed until there's some kind of definitive resolution. And I would expect the appeals to go up all the way as high as the court will take them. The U.S. Supreme Court has discretionary review, so they may not take it, but I expect the cases to be appealed to them. Unless there's a settlement, and you did ask about that, and let me just close the thought. The difficulty with the settlement is because they are not class actions, the defendants cannot settle against all the potential plaintiffs. They can only settle against the ones who've already expressed, who've already signed up to the case. And so one of the tricky aspects of this case is how could they price the settlement to pick up all these other potential plaintiffs who are waiting in the wings?
Are there any other countries that have gone through this process of litigating social media addiction? It feels like uncharted territory. When I see things like the effect of the like button or endless scroll or feeds, there's been a conversation about the effect of those technologies for a long time, but this is the first time I've seen them actually been, in the court of law.
That's a great question. I don't actually know if there's been any trials on these questions in other countries, and other countries don't always have a jury system like we do. So I do think we are in some new ground here. Having said that, other countries often can regulate the specific mechanics of online publishers in ways that the First Amendment may not protect or permit here. So the other countries might very well have already dictated that certain things cannot be done that are part of the litigation now.
Yeah. So do you think that there's a hope for sort of new federal regulation alongside what is going on with Section 230 that sort of sets the rules of the road at a national level that then if you're in compliance to, you can't be held guilty of, all these lawsuits?
It's possible that we could get some kind of federal legislation that provides some kind of security or safe harbor for the defendants that would also preempt any of the state laws that would conflict with that. I don't see that anywhere in the Overton window, the window of what's actually being debated today. But maybe if the services are feeling enough pain, they would be willing to pursue that. The reality is today that states throughout the country are passing laws that govern the same issues that are at issue in the litigation. And so unless there's some federal preemptive laws, the defendants, the social media services are going to have to navigate this ever-growing stack of state legislation.
Jordy, please.
Do you think we get to a point where when you open a social media app, it has like an addiction warning, like you might see on a cigarette on a cigarette box? Is that where this is headed, or if this goes far enough, are the platforms running the risk of, needing to remove the like button because it hurts people's mental well-being, or eliminating the infinite scroll, or app level usage limits? Like, what are kind of like the extreme sort of downside scenarios for the platform?
So there have been some states that have enacted mandatory warning labels like you're describing. Those are going to be subject to constitutional challenge. It's not clear to me that they're actually constitutionally permitted. For example, Texas's law has, I believe, been enjoined on that very point. So the warning label approach, I don't think is likely to be the final resolution in any of the disputes here. I think that that's going to be an effort that probably isn't going to either solve a problem or be constitutional. It is already the case that states have passed laws that have done things like tried to ban auto scrolling or infinite scrolling or autoplay or the like button or like counts or whatever. States are going to get to that level of granularity, and they're already doing so. Many of the things that are already part of social media features today are regulated by state laws that are on the books, but possibly being in the process of being challenged. And I think the bigger question isn't, will we lose our like button, or will we lose infinite scrolling? I think we would consider that, for those of us who are aficionados of social media, who think that there's some value to them, we would consider that to be maybe the best possible outcome. I think the more serious outcome is what social media services drop out of the industry entirely, what social media services add barriers to user populations having access to social media, and how much we see the circumscription of social media conversations entirely. In other words, I don't think we should assume that social media will exist in its current form in the future. The question is whether we'll even have social media in the future. That, I think, are the stakes of the cases and the legislation.
Yeah, that's fascinating. What other industries have been through this type of pivotal moment, and where should we be drawing analogies, or where should we avoid drawing analogies? People have said social media is the new cigarettes. Jordy was making a point about the warning labels on cigarettes. It feels like that might not be the actual best analogy. I was talking to Tyler on our team about the risks associated with driving a motorcycle. And I was making the point that there's an instruction manual that you buy, that you get with a motorcycle that puts a lot of the risk on you if you choose to transport yourself.
If this really progresses, like the precedent it sets is like, okay, fast food companies shouldn't be able to use bright colors in their logos.
There's a lot. There's a lot of different
musicians
stuff.
shouldn't be able to play hooks that are just too good.
Catchy. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, but where do you think the best analogies are?
I'm not a fan of analogies between online and offline activities. And in particular, I don't like the analogy to tobacco. And let me make clear why, and I think that'll start to enlighten where the risks and opportunities are. Tobacco, we would generally say there are no health benefits to consuming tobacco. Nobody is healthier because of that. It's just either neutral or negative. But social media consumption has many social benefits. There are many communities that are thriving online and who are, I think, justifiably concerned that their benefits are at risk in this litigation without them even having a say in it. So unlike tobacco, social media is a mix of potentially very helpful things and things that could potentially be harmful for some of its consumers. And those kinds of mixed uses technology that have both benefits and potential detriments are really, I think, a better analogy than tobacco. And I don't know that we have great circumstances where we can point to where mass tort litigation has targeted and potentially removed from the industry these mixed use scenarios. And in the end, the things that people are being addicted to or that are allegedly causing harm are people talking to each other. And that kind of speech-related theme is unlike almost any physical product that we might draw an analogy to.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case. We really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us about it. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Yeah, come back on as there's more news.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to you again in the future.
Just scratching the surface.
This was really helpful.
It's been great talking to you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Our next guest is in the TVP and Ultradome. First, let me tell you about Railway. Railway is the all-in-one intelligent cloud provider, user favorite agent to deploy web apps, servers, databases, and more, while Railway automatically takes care of scaling, monitoring, and security.
We got to make it illegal. If I drop a good one-liner in a group chat, it should be illegal for people not to chime in, react, hopefully get some laughs.
Yeah, the like button's just going to be like a circle, whatever.
Good to have you here, dude.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing? Introduce yourself for those who are not familiar, since it is your first time.
My name is Nima Jalali. I'm the founder of Salt and Stone.
Okay.
And founder and CEO.
Yeah, take us back.
And I'll give some context. So I met Nima recently moved into my area, and I think we met within like a week of you moving in, and so I haven't even gotten like the full story, even though we've been hanging out the last couple weeks.
Cool.
Yeah, full story. I was a pro snowboarder. I heard you're from Pasadena.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm from La Cañada.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so grew up there, was obsessed with skateboarding, and then got into snowboarding and started going to those local mountains right there.
Mountain High, Big Bear.
No, like Mount Waterman, and it used to be called Cracker Ridge.
Sure.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so back in the day, when I was in high school, we had, El Nino winters.
Yeah.
Like a ton of snow, and they would actually operate. They don't operate anymore.
Yeah.
And so I would just get out of school at 12 every day and go up there 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I got good and went off and turned into a pro snowboarder.
What does that mean? Does that mean like speed competitions, trick competitions? What are you doing? Because there are multiple ways to become a professional snowboarder, correct?
More like freestyle.
Yeah,
right?
so there's basically like two paths. There's like lifestyle guy who's just like going around making movies all the time.
Okay.
And then there's like the competition track.
Yeah.
And then there's some crossover. But generally there's like you have sponsors in both departments, but one person is focused on like winning contests, going to the Olympics, going to the X Games, doing things like that. And then there's the more like guys that might do backcountry or street or park, but they're focused on producing like parts basically.
Got it.
I didn't know you knew so much about it.
I know a lot.
Yeah. So I wasn't the contest guy. I was more in movies and in magazines and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So went off and did that.
How long were you doing that?
Pro for about 10 years, from about 20 to 30.
10 years, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, that was like my college, really.
Yeah, that must be so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And
I feel like entrepreneurs can probably resonate with what like a pro snowboarder is doing, where your job is to basically produce, like a banger part a season, potentially multiple, and there's like this where you're basically like...
What is part?
Like that's like a 5-minute video that might be released independently or as part of an entire movie.
Okay.
And so your job is to do enough tricks, stomp them, as Nemo would probably
It's a lot, it's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, there's like you pick out a song you know that
Yeah.
you want to have in your part. There's first part, and then
Yeah.
the most prestigious is being in the last part, you know, in the video. Like
the
everyone,
ender,
so it's
closer.
like you got this video, and everyone's supposed to be on the same like kind of like team to make this best video. There's like probably like 10 snowboarders going after it and doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a little competition within that because everybody wants to get last part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
and so it's
Cool.
it's not a team sport.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you're really out for yourself, and like there are a lot of lessons that you learn, especially growing up skateboarding. You know, where it's like fail. Like trying
Yeah.
to like learning how to kickflip takes you 6 months of just failing, and then you figure it out. And so
Yeah, then the other thing is these parts come together. It might be like 4 or 5 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one trick after another, but you're missing. Sometimes they'll include it, but they're missing like the blooper reel, which is like sometimes you have to fall really, really hard 20 times in a row to land the one that you make it look easy.
Sure.
And that gets cut out. So I feel like there's so many lessons out of that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of successful entrepreneurs would have
Yeah.
you know, failed miserably for years, and then they have that breakthrough kind of like product or feature or whatever it is. And snowboarding, it's happening on like a day-to-day basis where you have like one season, right, to put together your part, and you're kind of like racing against Mother Nature in some sense.
Can you chase the winter into the southern hemisphere effectively?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you would be. How many days would you actually be snowboarding over a year?
I mean, 5 days a week. Like I lived in Tahoe, Mammoth, Utah, and all that. But I ended up landing in Big Bear just because it was like the weather's always good for if you want to just snowboard every day and train.
Yeah.
The weather's always sunny and nice, and it's not like icy or cold. So I would just go there and snowboard every day, and then fly out of LAX to wherever I needed to go.
And Big Bear is like basically one lift that you're just going around and around, and there's
You just practice.
like
The best snowboard
50,
part. Yeah.
50 features that you
really?
can hit on one. So you like go and you
yeah.
might be hiking like a little bit on one feature. But you're basically lapping it. So people that like don't like park go there and they're like, this is the worst mountain ever. Like if
Sure,
you're used
sure.
to skiing in Mammoth
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Tahoe or Colorado.
Yeah.
But if you just want to ride park,
Got it.
Big Bear is incredible.
Jordy, we're gonna have to go, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. No, I went through. I did almost like 50 days. I think my junior year of college, a lot at Big
That's a
Bear.
lot.
I would just go up and lap the park.
Nice.
A lot of good memories.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
a
where do you
project.
ski
It's a
in the
project that
southern
you're.
hemisphere?
What's that?
Where do you ski in the southern hemisphere? If it's summer here,
Yeah.
I imagine that even Big Bear, there's no snow, and so you have to go to the southern
If
hemisphere.
the only time I snowboarded in the summer was going to Mount Hood, where
Okay.
it was like there's a glacier.
Oh, okay.
Do you know about that?
It's still snow. I don't.
There's still snow, so it's in Mount Hood, and they have like the summer camp.
Okay.
And so all these kids go, and
so
a lot
you
of
still-
pros go
wow.
and stuff. But honestly, during the summer, I would just skate. I would
Yeah.
skateboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, so the reason you're here
Yeah.
is because you built Salt and Stone over the last 8 years. Partially exited this week. I don't know. I don't know which. I know the numbers. I don't know what numbers you're disclosing. But yeah, take us through what was the transition like. I'm assuming you didn't just like retire and immediately start Salt and Stone, or was it effectively instantly?
So I had a couple ventures within that industry, like the surf, skate, snow world. And then, Salt and Stone was this idea that I had, and
Which is like, I don't know if you can give any context
Yeah.
on that, but like brutal industry because every single pro and everybody adjacent also wants to start ventures within the industry.
That's true. But I mean, there's just such a ceiling in that world, unless you're like end up being a Burton or a Quicksilver or something like that, right?
Yeah, and even those brands have struggled.
Totally. So I knew I wanted to do Salt and Stone, and I wanted to do something on my own. To be honest with you, I had I had business partners and everything, and I wanted to just see how far I could go if I just went like all in 100%, like not have to worry about waking up at 2 a.m. and doing emails and just going so hard, and just I could justify that if it's just like all me and I'm just like going for it. And so and so transitioned over to that full time. And it's been just a rocket ship, man. It's been such a great
Yeah,
journey.
you guys did 165 million last year.
Yeah.
Scaling still. What was the first product?
The first product was sunscreen, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So sunscreen
Which
was
again
the
is like a brutal. I would say, like from my perspective, sunscreen's like a brutal category because like a lot of people use it throughout the year,
Yeah.
but like much fewer people actually are using it enough to like need to even be on a subscription. and then oftentimes you're buying it like just in a random hotel, like, you know, retail store because you're on vacation. Anyways, but
yeah,
how did that go?
I always wanted to do deodorant, and sunscreen was it just happened faster as far as searching for the perfect, you know, chemist, contract manufacturer, and all that stuff to bring it to life. And so sunscreen came out, the brand was profitable from day one. And then when we launched deodorant.
How did you sell? Were you just selling it D2C or?
So we had some retail on day one. So I had retailers lined up. We had, I think, about 40 to 50 of them. And so as soon as we were shipping orders, we were collecting payment. And so, you know, I funded it out of my own pocket to start, but was able to pay myself back pretty quickly. And you know, the business.
Were those 40 to 50 stores, were those individual stores or chains? Or
they were individual stores.
Individual
for the
stores.
most part, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was when we launched deodorant was really when it, you know, stores started coming to us.
Yeah.
You know?
What are the economics of like getting one sunscreen product? It sounds like one SKU into one of those stores. Are they buying like $100 box? Or
there's a minimum, you know.
Okay.
Like, from my memory, I think it was like a case pack of 12 sunscreens that came out to like $300 or something.
Okay, yeah. And then they can sell it at a markup and then MSRP.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
How quickly did you realize that? Like my experience having invested in CPG over the years is the number one factor that leads to success is not like operational excellence. It's not always just the team. It's just like how good is the product. And I've seen a lot of like exceptional teams that have like all the operational chops, that have all the experience, come out with a product that might be fine or pretty good, but they just don't go anywhere. They can never reach escape velocity because the product fundamentally like doesn't really sell itself. Like you can sell it, might cost a lot to acquire customers. The sell-through is not that great. Retailers don't really love it. And when I first tried your deodorant, after trying probably like 20 different like better for you deodorants, I was like, wow, this product is like incredible. And I've like retained across years, even though I don't even know that I maybe bought it on the website once, maybe bought it on different stores online, or I just buy it in the grocery store, but I'm like permanently retained because I tried everything else and this is just the best. It like goes on well, it smells good. And so I was just like sold off of that, and you didn't need to be like the best at like email marketing to me or like have the best like retention flows, because I was just like, it's a good product, I've tried everything else. And so I'm wondering like how quickly you realize that from like a product development standpoint, how much of like what is your ethos around product development, when is a product ready to actually go to market versus just still in that kind of testing phase?
Yeah, that's why we launched sunscreen before deodorant, because we were just trying to get everything perfect, right? And so we did something in deodorant that hadn't been done before, especially in clean deodorant, you know, whereas deodorants before didn't smell the way I wanted to, right? Like they didn't have these sophisticated scents, and clean deodorants didn't work, or they weren't really like a pleasurable experience to use, and they certainly didn't look good. Like
they'd be like mint.
Yeah,
like, exactly. I don't want to smell like toothpaste.
Exactly. It's like, you know, why shouldn't it smell as good as your perfume or cologne, right? And so just hitting it on all cylinders and making sure it's, you know, perfect. And for me, I was really making it for myself, right? Like, what do I want? And it turns out what I wanted was what everybody else wanted. So
did the company ever almost die?
No.
I love this story.
It's been a dream come true run, man. It's been fun.
It's so funny because like the classic philosophy and
we died 25 times.
Is like, here's this time we almost died, and in talking to you, like getting to know you just recently, it just kind of seemed like it was just like permanently up and to the right, and you told me one story that was like not like kind of annoying around on the capital side, but nothing that was like, it didn't feel like you experienced that much hardship. You kind of just one-shotted entrepreneurship. That's amazing. And it's so crazy because I know so many, you started the company at like the peak of the D2C boom. Like
What
this was
year?
a time. This was 2017.
2017.
Right, and so this was a
Yeah.
time that like everyone was like
Red Antler
like
brands.
Red Antler, Gin Lane
Gin
were
Lane.
just pumping out brands. There
Yep.
was so much capital
So many.
flowing
I'm sure
in.
you had
There was
many competitors.
there was
in
like a
VC backward.
yeah, there was a school on the East Coast. I forget the name of it, but they had like an MBA program that was like every single
Harvard.
not Harvard. It was one.
No, there were a lot of MBAs that were.
Yeah, there was
being I'll just
every
make a D2C
person
product.
in an MBA program would be like, I'm building a D2C brand,
Yeah.
and they were just picking.
And there were
off
some
all
really
these categories.
good outcomes that people were tracking against, like Dollar Shave Club and Harry's, and there were a number of companies where it was like, oh, they did Warby Parker, they raised money, they did the VC playbook, and it sort of penciled out for everyone. But then later people realized like, oh, those were more like one-off exceptions to the rule, where you get a Unilever who gets excited and buys a Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion and maybe doesn't wind up realizing $1 billion of value because it's just a young company. So
Yeah.
tricky.
I mean, honestly, I feel like it's just the power of a founder who's just going to be relentless and go up against the big guys, right? Because I interview people from the big guys all the time, and I'm shocked at like how sleepy some organizations are, right?
Yeah.
And so if you even have a team of 3 people that are just relentless, and you guys know from like what you guys do,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like you can't compete with that. I don't care how much money you have or
Yeah.
what incubator you're in or
Yeah, yeah.
what VC starting you. It's if you have a founder who's just going to be relentless and
How did the approach to funding evolve? Like, because you said you were like profitable from day one. You did raise at a couple different points a little bit of money, but did you care about maintaining profitability, or did you ever go through periods of growth where you thought, okay, we can burn a little bit here to get to the next stage?
We've always been profitable. That's always been important, right? I just want to make sure the bank balance is growing. The raises were secondary, right? It was me sort of taking chips off the table. The business has just been so profitable that we didn't really need to inject it with money, you know. And so it's a healthy business, man. I'm blessed. And
Venture capital, not really my cup of tea.
No, it's just so crazy. I mean, it just goes back to you guys nailed so many different elements of the product, and yet I know people that started deodorant brands during that same period that just didn't go anywhere.
it's
So what was
weird
the
how
early
these-
team like?
The early team?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So you have the idea, solo founder, and you mentioned co-packer. Did you work with a formulator? Did you hire a salesperson first, operations manager, somebody just to help you, personal assistant? Like, what was the stack?
Yeah. So first 3 years was myself,
Okay.
just myself, right? And then for that, it was really working with contract manufacturers, chemists, but also, bouncing off my internal network on like, hey, I got this deodorant sample, like people I trusted, their taste and what, here's the goal. This is what I'm trying to achieve here. Like, let's test it. And so that myself, my wife, like constantly we're smelling each other's underarms,
Is it working?
In the lab.
Yeah,
Proofs in the pudding.
it was just relentless, man. It was like we know what we want in a product. We see what else is out there. We have all the other products on our shelf, right?
Yeah.
Like to just see what they're like.
Yeah.
Let's make something better.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and then 3 years in, I hired somebody who really took on all the ops, all that stuff off of my plate. That's not where I excel. Ops and like finance and like all that. I'm more brand product.
Totally.
Anything the customer sees, that's what I love. And so when she took all that, and she really excels at that stuff, and it was me and her for like 4 years after that.
Wow.
Or like 2-3 years after that.
Still
that's
just
when
a
the-
couple people.
Wait, so this is
just
like
the two of you guys.
2022 and you're still 2 people?
No, 2019.
No, it was like sorry, my years are
3 years solo, 3 years with 2 people, it's 6 years.
No,
it's
then
like
we
yesterday.
Then we started hiring. So she came
Okay.
on board, and,
Yeah.
and it really, I saw how it would really excel the business, and I got to focus on what I like to do.
Totally.
She came in and crushed it way better than I could do on the other stuff,
Yep.
3PL, logistics, all that stuff. And then I saw power of team, and then from there we just started hiring people, and then just got the confidence to keep hiring. Because the more we hired, we hired the right people. Then the business kept growing and growing and growing, and then all of a sudden it's 166, and we're the best-selling deodorant on Amazon. And
How big is the team now?
55.
That's still really tight.
It's really tight.
That's really good.
We have a high bar for
Yeah.
who we bring in.
Yeah, that
like
makes
it's
sense.
we'll interview people and I'll know within 5 minutes. Like
Are you in the office or remote?
no office, all
No
remote.
office, all remote.
All remote. Yeah.
This is like the most insane story. It's like
It's
you
so
know,
good.
most of the time you get to this
Yeah.
moment and just like the most battle scarred founder.
Telling you, man, we're blessed. It's been a fun ride.
Okay, so walk me through the product portfolio expansion, how that happens, and then are you subdividing sales reps by region or vertical or channel?
We don't have sales reps.
You don't have sales.
No.
Sales reps?
So-
Never heard of them.
So here's the
Product
thing.
sales
Here's the
stuff, okay,
thing. Like
yeah.
you got to create a brand that the
Yeah.
retailer wants.
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause they
Like
call
you don't
you.
want to go and just like push something down a retailer's throat and have your sales guy knocking on the door and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was it. Like really focusing. Like this wasn't all just like, oh, it's just happening. It's happening. It's like an obsession, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I turned into an advertising expert for
Okay.
like 6 months. All I did was want us to have the best ads, the best digital presence,
Okay.
right? And like create a brand that
Yeah.
the retailers needed to have,
Yeah.
right? And then from there, then those retailers
Yeah.
need to have you.
What was
and they
that
come knocking on the door.
What was that advertising process like? Were you reading Ogilvy, looking at the grades?
It's just looking at
watching
all looking
everything?
at all the competitors,
Yeah.
seeing how they do,
Okay.
right? And really, it's like not looking at the other indie brands, like looking at the big brands.
Sure.
Right? Like I've always want to take inspiration from the brands like
Yep.
like the Nikes of the world that
Sure.
are going to be here in 100 years because
Okay.
that's what I want this brand to be,
Yeah.
right? I don't want this isn't some like influencer brand. I'm not an influencer,
Yeah.
right? I'm not in front of the camera. Like
Yep.
this is something that. I want to be a legacy brand that's here long after I'm gone.
Yep.
And so those are the brands I look at for
Yeah.
inspiration.
And then how are you actually instantiating your learnings? Like, are you directing photo shoots? Are you casting models? Are you
Right now?
writing copy? No. Once you go through that 6-month
Yeah,
brand exercise,
all
you
of it.
become the expert. Are you like taking a brand project from start to finish, or are you picking an agency or hiring people?
It was start to finish. So
Yeah.
there was a time where I was picking out models, picking out photographers,
Yeah.
videographers,
Yeah.
helping with the edit,
Yeah.
like all that stuff.
Yeah.
The edit's here,
Yep.
and then go in
Giving
and work
feedback.
with. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
they're static, like still photos, I would
Yeah.
go in Figma, drop text overlay,
Wow.
figure out what to say, like all that stuff. And I mean, I just threw everything at
Yeah.
it, man. All I did, I gave up everything, all my hobbies,
Yeah.
like snowboarding,
Yeah.
skateboarding, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I got into golf for a second, all of it ended. Like it was just like, I'm gonna go in on this. But like when you get a signal that the thing is working, right?
Yeah.
Then you want
Because
to.
the bank balance is going up.
Bank balance is going up. You're having fun.
Yep.
It's like really your purpose. It's just like nothing else I want. Like I want to build it. Yeah.
What do you think about international expansion?
What do I think about it?
Yeah, how has your thinking evolved? What's
Yeah.
the strategy? Is that something that a lot of companies go through this moment where they're like, maybe it's so operationally complex it'll change the business, so let's put it off. Let's maybe wait until we're at a point where we can team up with a bigger company and through a merger or acquisition and let them bring their operational force so that you don't need a person in every locality because they will bring that to bear and you're set up for success.
Yeah. No, so we've already expanded internationally and
As I expected.
Sephora
It was easy.
Canada,
Yeah.
Sephora UK, Space NK in the UK, Sephora Europe we just launched, Middle East, Southeast Asia, so on and so on. That being said, there's a lot more opportunity, and that's one of the reasons I chose Advent to be the partner here. Is because they have a strong expertise in international, and I feel really great about them. I mean, look, my goal was never to just exit out fully and just put it in somebody's hands and let it go to shit. Like that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want the brand to. I want my grandkids to look at this thing and be like, oh yeah, that's what my grandfather built. I want it to be around. I want it to be what it was always meant to be, and not turn into some discount brand.
So
Yeah, what was the how many did you have a bunch of opportunities to sell prior to this moment? I'm assuming people were just like kind of seeing public metrics and sell through and all these things and hounding you at different points. What was the process of like knowing when the time was right?
We had a lot of private equity reaching out, a lot of people reaching out in general. And so I worked with Raymond James, who I love, and I would just forward it to them, and they told me when it was time, and it was like, let's go explore, explore the market. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was not a story where you met your acquirer like years and years ago?
We'd been talking for about, for several months, 6+ months, and I really, really like them, and for me, it's when I did the deal with Humble Growth 2 years ago, we had like 15 private equity funds to choose from, and I like them because of who they. No, we had a lot. We had a lot of bidders. You know.
I just think this is.
You know how.
If you were looking for the hero's journey of founder stories, this isn't it.
you can turn it off.
I mean, it is in a way. It's missing some plot points.
There's a lot more to it. But yeah, I mean, it's just choosing good people to work with, right?
Yeah.
People who can do it with integrity and that I want to work with, and that like are aligned vision wise on like what the brand is going to be in the future, and let's go build that together.
Yeah.
What advice have you been giving to people that want to follow in your footsteps? That this is like kind of what I feel like every CPG founder imagines is just like, I'm going to be building for like 8 years, and then I'm going to sell for $500 million to $1 billion to a strategic, and yet the hit rate is obviously something probably like 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the last year, I feel like there's actually been a dip in new brand formation.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what Sean Frank was I think mentioning on I think at the end of last year, and his point of view, he's the founder or the CEO of Ridge, and he's like, okay, in 2 years, are people going to want new brands to choose from? And his point of view is like 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's constantly a desire for newness and that kind of founder-led product development approach that made Salt and Stone what it is today. So, what advice are you giving?
I mean, honestly, like I didn't read any entrepreneurial books or really listen to any like entrepreneurial podcasts or anything until recently. I just went off instinct. Like you got to fight. We're fighting for our life. My advice would be to go all in. Like you can't go and be like work-life balance and like I want to check out at 5 because like there's going to be someone right behind you that's going to come and take your place and be that brand that comes in and does what you want to do if you're going to just chill. Yeah. So it's like you gotta make sure you love it because that's the way you're going to be able to do it, basically around the clock from the moment you go to sleep to wake up. It's something you got to love to do, and it's got to be your passion, right? And so you got to just go relentlessly and know. I would say like forget the work-life balance stuff. You just got to go hard. You got to go all in and just use your instincts. You just got to be competitive and go after the big guys and don't be afraid and just go. You got to go for it. Go all in.
Yeah, I like to focus on the actual incumbents. Like a lot of people will focus too much on like, okay, who are the other new brands in my category, and just actually studying like, okay, what makes the big players actually successful? It's like, okay, massive retail distribution, like actual like IP on the product side, all these things.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it feels like. In beauty, there was such a playbook. Like every brand looked the same. All the content was the same. It was like pay the influencer, have the influencer talk about the product, post it on your social, like over and over again, and that's the playbook. And I didn't even know anything about beauty really. Like I'm a skateboarder. I don't come from beauty. I like fashion brands. I like lifestyle brands. And so coming in and just being inspired by the Nikes of the world, the big brands, instead of looking at beauty, I think played in our favor because we came out and it was like, oh, this is different,
Did you do any like community marketing? Because sometimes there's a brand that I love. Maybe it's like I would say like if a deodorant brand was putting together an event, I don't think I'd be like I gotta be there. But did you do anything that like worked, that broke through, that like was material to the business? Because I feel like sometimes it's very distracting for like CPG brands to like do IRL marketing early on. Because I'm like. I usually will ask a founder, like, okay, how many units have you sold in the last month? And they're like, 1,000. 1,000. I'm like, okay, then don't spend $30,000 on like some activation. Like you should just like make a product that actually sells well, and then you'll have opportunities to do things.
Yeah, I mean, early on, that was my philosophy too. It's like, why are you going to go waste money on something that you don't know is going to move the needle? So it's like, spend it. Like if our ads are going well, like let's just pour more money into that versus like doing some pop-up somewhere. But now we're at the point where those IRL pop-ups, I think it's good. It's good brand building, and so we do that now. We do pop-ups.
Yeah, but pop-ups are, I would say, different than like a lifestyle event that is just like a bunch of people hanging out.
Yeah.
What about owned retail, like flagship store? Have you looked into that?
We're looking into it. So
Okay.
yeah. So we're looking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I mean, it says a lot that you didn't jump into that in year 2, for example.
yeah, I mean, it's, it would be tough to do that and maintain profitability, right?
Totally.
And so it's like you're fighting for your life. You want to
Yeah.
make sure it's profitable.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. Like you need enough awareness that you're actually going to get upside, but then if you have complete awareness, it's probably like you're already stocked everywhere. So
Yeah.
it needs to be in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Interesting.
Such an amazing story. Honestly, it's like a very unique.
It's a great story.
It's amazing because it's exactly what people set out to do, and
Yeah.
yet it's so uncommon to just like go up into the right every month.
It's great 'cause
and,
it's
very
simple.
refreshing.
It's like work hard and don't get caught up in a bunch of
Stuff that
trends
doesn't
and
matter.
Stuff that doesn't matter.
Do the things that matter, right?
Do the things
and
that
gone.
matter.
You're going to be relieved. He's
Yes.
now a David Senra enjoyer.
Oh, really?
Love his podcast.
He's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So he's getting to enjoy David Senra after climbing the mountain.
That's amazing.
That's funny. I hear that. It's like I hear the hustle stuff and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you got to do this and you got to go all in, and I'm like, yeah, like I naturally kind of do that. It makes me. Feel good.
It works.
Yeah, it's cool.
But even I mean, David talks about this a lot, where like even like a lot of his audience members are not listening to it and saying, "Oh, I never considered working hard." They're saying like,
a reminder.
Yes, it's a reminder. It's a meditation on their current philosophy, and then it's a bunch of other examples and just confidence to continue being different, because there's a lot of people, as simple as like focus is, there's a lot of people that feel pressure to continue their
I
golf
need
game.
to have this super complicated 7-part strategy.
That,
when it's like, oh,
and then
you
also
just
just like the work-life balance thing. Like, there's a lot of pressure to not be that person who's turning down invites to the golf trip.
Right.
And that's and so the Founders Podcast definitely like reinvigorates you to like add more confidence that you're not crazy. You're not the only person doing this on Earth.
100%. Yeah, I love his passion.
It's great.
I'm gonna introduce you guys. You guys are gonna have a lot of fun.
This will be
Really
great.
great. Brand wise though, we're just getting started. Honestly, it feels like that, and so
Yeah.
this partnership's exciting, and can't wait to keep building this thing.
Yeah.
Amazing, dude.
Congratulations.
So
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to come
See
chat
you
with
back
us.
at the ranch.
This was great. Let me tell you about Phantom Cash. Fund your wallet without exchanges or middlemen and spend with the Phantom Card. And let me also tell you about Vanta. Automate compliance and security. Vanta is the leading AI trust management platform. Let me get my headphones back in.
Back to
Our guest.
a lightning
our next
round
guest.
of
Yes.
sorts.
Yes, we have Jon McNeill, the author of The Algorithm, in the Restream waiting room. I love that everyone's getting me to watch.
What's going
Put
on?
my IEMs back on. How are you doing, John?
Hi, guys.
Sorry.
Hey, how are you?
I need to adjust my headphones.
Great
We
to
just-
meet you. Great to have you on the show.
There we go.
We're
Yeah, same.
having a lot of fun over here. We just had a friend of mine, Nima, come
Yeah.
tell a story. He just exited.
He has sort of a
company.
one-step algorithm.
Yeah, his algorithm was just like focus, work hard, and he one-shotted entrepreneurship. He was like, I think I'm going to just be a solo founder. Then I think I'm going to build remote,
Yeah.
and then scaled to 165 million of revenue in 8 years profitably. And then
Jordy asked him, like, did the company ever die? He's like, no, we were always
not
profitable.
die. Did it ever almost
Come
die?
close to dying? He's like, no death scares.
No.
It was like the,
No.
the opposite of Elon.
Yeah. But, that's the beauty of the show. We go all over the place. We like to talk to, entrepreneurs who have all sorts of different paths. And fortunately, we have someone here who can tell us about Elon Musk's journey, which has been much more tumultuous. But why don't you start with the introduction and how you got to a place where this was the book that you wanted to write?
Yeah, I wanted to tell the story of how Tesla and SpaceX to a certain extent work on the inside. And I asked Walter Isaacson when he was writing his book on Elon, why don't you tell the story of how Jobs runs Apple? Because there's a really specific way Jobs ran Apple and his other companies. Yeah. I said, same with Elon. There's a really specific operating system and way inside of Tesla. Why don't you write about that? And Walter said, I don't write business books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I write character books.
Character books.
So he turned to me and said, you got to write that book.
Yeah.
And so that's the short answer. When Walter Isaacson tells you to write a book, you write a
do
book. You better listen.
Okay, so talk to me first about the process of distilling the work philosophy, how Elon works inside of Tesla, and then actually take me through the algorithm, the steps, because people hear things like first principles, engineering mindset, but I think all of that is pretty vague, and I think you can concretize it for us pretty well.
Yeah, so basically this framework came from two things. One was all the mistakes we made.
Yeah.
So you talk about tumultuous, a lot of that was self-caused.
Yeah.
And we would do like postmortems and say like, how the heck did we get ourselves in this situation? And let's not do this again. And so what's the principle that would keep us out of the ditch? And so that's how the algorithm got developed. And it was with the goal of pushing decision-making out to the edge.
Yeah.
And so we wanted two-way door decisions, make those at the edge, and here's the framework you can use. And it turned out the framework drove innovation too. And so it starts with no surprise, simplifying. And the first three steps of the algorithm basically are you got to simplify. So the first one is you question every requirement that you're given. Is it a requirement of physics? Is it a requirement of safety? Is it a requirement of law? And if you can't answer yes to those questions, then you got to consider deleting that requirement. So example of that is we were trying to sell $100,000 things online. Nobody had done that before, sight unseen. And it took 64 clicks to buy a Tesla. And 44 of those clicks were in the auto loan and auto lease documents.
Whoa.
And it turns out an auto loan document is 12 pages of paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of how the bank's going to basically kill you if you don't pay. And so I asked the lawyers, can you come back to me and tell me how many of these paragraphs are a requirement of law or regulation? They came back not much time later, and they said, none.
Whoa.
And I said, what do you mean? They said, none. All of this stuff, all these paragraphs were inserted by well-meaning corporate lawyers who are trying to save their company's necks. And none of this is a requirement of law. And I said, so literally I could get down to a one-page or maybe a one-paragraph loan that said, here's how much the car is, here's how much the interest rate is, here's the time period, here's the monthly payment. That's 4 sentences. And so like we did goofy stuff like that. We would question a loan doc. And it turns out that if you eliminate 44 clicks, you sell a lot more of these $100,000 things online. And so that's the first step of the algorithm is just question every requirement. Second is that you make the new thing or the new product as simple as possible, fewest steps, delete everything that the customer doesn't pay you for. And then you speed it up because speed reveals all kinds of warts. And if you can make something go fast, it's got to be simple and it's got to be really good. So good, fast, and cheap is actually false. You can get all three. And then this sounds nuts coming from a Silicon Valley perspective, but you automate last. And it's not so nuts when you consider like how DoorDash started 5 Stanford CS majors in a dorm room. They put up a PDF with a phone number so that they could figure out the workflow of the business before they automated anything. Same with the Amazon guys. They put up a web page to order books, but they had no fulfillment capability. So they ran down the street to a bookseller, bought the book you ordered, dropped it in a box so they could learn the business. And we found this time and time again when we automated first, like the Model 3 production line, we automated at first and it never worked. And so the only way we could save the company was to build a tent outside the factory and start building Model 3s by hand. And we learned automate last over and over and over again, and it became religion. So that's the 5 steps of the algorithm.
There's been a lot of speculation about the next Tesla vehicle. Somebody was proposing a car with 3 sets of doors for big families.
That doesn't sound simple.
The Roadster that flies.
That doesn't.
There's the Cyberban, the Cybertruck turned into a Suburban. What's the product that you want?
I do want the Cyberban. Here's why. Like when you go to Tokyo or you go to China, they have these like really tricked out minivans. And they have every feature. It's like sitting in the best man cave ever. And I want that car.
I think that'd be a good one. What do you think translates from a hardware company with very sleepy incumbents, thinking of the car industry, the space industry. What translates to software development, artificial intelligence, app building, social networking? What's going to transfer of the algorithm of the Elon way of working, and what might not?
That's a really good question. I think what transfers, these principles transfer of like simplify and kind of go slow to go fast as you're developing like the software, basically your first architecture, what the software is going to look like and what it's going to do, and really determine like what are the key features or value we're going to ship, and just concentrate like heck on that. Like keep it simple first, and and a lot of people have talked about this as a minimum viable product, but I think that's still really true. And then try to make the product as perfect as possible. Yeah. And like you take Claude right now, the reason Claude code is winning is because it is the best. And that came out of long discussions about how to simplify the architecture so it could actually do things that Codex can't do, that Cursor can't do. And I think that's the piece that translates, like simplify down to the 2 or 3 things you absolutely have to crush, and then literally go crush those.
Yeah, within Tesla, is there a noticeable bifurcation between the software engineering orgs and the hardware engineering orgs?
No, one of the things that Elon believes in is hiring what he calls orthogonally, which means basically that nobody has any experience in the industry, because he doesn't want you coming in with a preconceived set of frameworks or preconceived notions. And so we were all software people. Like I was a 6-time software serial entrepreneur. And I didn't know anything about hardware. I'd never been in it before. Mm-hmm. And so we approached every problem from a software first perspective. So an example of that is like, if you say, okay, to your last question, like, what do we have to crush in the car business? Well, we got to get an autonomous car. Okay, to run software on an autonomous car, the requirement of that is we have a single chip. Mm-hmm. Because if you have more than one chip, now you've introduced latency and syncing and all this sort of stuff you have to do. So we can only have one chip. And that's the software first kind of mentality. We're competing with people who are hardware first, who have 18 to 36 chips running in their car, which means they can never deliver autonomy because they're not thinking about software first. And so that software mentality gives Tesla an edge kind of every day of the week.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been speculating about demotivation from SpaceX liquidity as the company goes out at a 1.5, maybe $2 trillion valuation. There's a lot of engineers who are great. They're about to have a lot of liquidity, and maybe they will decide to retire, is basically the thesis. But we've sort of run this experiment with Tesla. What was it like post-IPO? Do you have a read on how the culture changed? Did everyone remain interested in the mission, or were there some people that actually did choose to sort of step back?
Yeah, I think the majority of people that were there for the mission, they're mission oriented, and the size of their bank account over time grew, but it really didn't matter. Yeah. To them, they were showing up every day to solve the next thing that was in the way. There were some people that cashed out along the way, but they were kind of the minority. Sure. And one of the things that Elon did was something that I had done in each one of my startups, and a lot of entrepreneurs do, which is you kind of starve the balance sheet. You raise only as much capital as you need, because the first principle is you don't want your company to go soft. And when people see a big number on the balance sheet, you're not close to death and people aren't like really moving as fast as they can, aren't as motivated. So even after we were public, we operated Tesla on a quarter's worth of cash, believe it or not. Whoa. And I kept saying to Elon, like, I would like a little breathing room. He's like, no, like we got to think about this. Like when we're young entrepreneurs, like if you're 2 steps from death, you operate differently. So, but I was like, man, we have a quarter's worth of cash, but we have 70 days of payables. That means we have less than 3 weeks of cash. Like this is tight. But that kept everybody sharp. And what we started to worry about was post like Model 3 and Model Y, when we actually started to generate cash on the balance sheet, like how we could make sure the company stayed sharp. And SpaceX has had this advantage of that for a long time, and Gwen and Elon are going to have to manage this now post IPO. But my sense is most people are there for the experience of working in a Musk company is that you are literally on the biggest challenge you've ever faced in your life, and with the best people, and you're doing the best work of your life. And so that's what keeps most people engaged. It is not the balance in their bank account.
How do people stay engaged and so laser focused on like a singular mission when Elon has like a new hot thing every 6 months maybe, and there's like, it feels like if he were to share that cultural tenet of like, try and solve every problem that humanity faces with the rest of the organization, you would have a very scattered organization, but that's not what we see. So how does that dividing line happen?
So like I started to get the entrepreneurial itch a few years in, and so I went to him and said, hey, look, you're starting OpenAI, you're starting Neuralink, you're starting the Boring Company. Like I got to scratch this itch too. Yeah. And he basically said, you can't, because I got to have you focus so I can go do these things. Sure. But then it was pretty cool. Like we designed this way that I could scratch my entrepreneurial itch, which was just doing it inside of Tesla.
Yeah.
So we invented mobile service. We invented insurance inside of Tesla, which now is a third of the cash flow. So I got to scratch those itches, but you start to learn, like, Gwen's job is keeping SpaceX focused. My job was keeping Tesla focused, so he could go exercise that Da Vinci side of his personality.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jordy, you have anything else? This is great.
Where are you investing mostly these days, outside of the Elon orbit?
Yeah, so we start companies from scratch at my venture firm, and we're investing in, I would say, the intersection of AI and the real world. So what that means is, like, we pulled this amazing team out of Tesla that it did the supply chain automation and optimization, and they've created a business called Atomic that is just slaying it. We created this really cool platform for restaurant hospitality, where at any restaurant you can get up and walk out without having to pay the check, because it already knows who you are and what you eat. So every restaurant becomes like a London supper club. We're deploying AI.
Which company is that?
That's called Zoomy.
Okay. I know a friend of mine has another company competing in that category. Same pitch. But I'm sure he'll be devastated to know that a Musk adjacent company is.
Yeah, there's room for more than one of us. I like having competition, and that's a really tough technical solve, actually, to be able to pull that off. So it'll be protectable if your friend's company's working on it, and there's room for both of us to swim in that big ocean.
What's your advice for American auto manufacturers? Because it feels like they're just, they're behind in autonomy. They're behind even from a feature standpoint with a Tesla or a BYD.
I see these electric cars out of China where it's like, it has 1,500 horsepower. It's as big as a Suburban, and it drives itself. And then you're like, and it'll cost $35,000. You're like, that is impossible. How can we possibly compete with that? So, what should American automakers broadly do?
Well, this is a real challenge that I'm a part of, because I'm on the board of GM now, trying to help them navigate this. And so, like, when I walk around the streets of Tel Aviv or Mexico City or Paris, you see all the BYDs. And to your point, these are not crappy cars. These are really good cars, and at a really good price point. They're at that price point because the government subsidizes the heck out of that business in China. You get free factories, free labor, free parts, basically. So you can sell stuff super cheap. But that is for real competition.
What is their, to your knowledge, what is the long-term thinking there? Is it effectively like an employment program where they just want?
Or are they looking at it like CAC, where they're like, we'll lose money for a decade, but then we're going to make it money for 4
both,
decades.
or like, what are the kind of pillars, do you think, of their strategy overall?
It's a combination of both of what you guys just said. So on your point, Jordy, it is the way that you keep a single-party system in power is you provide jobs. So job growth is the one metric that every level of government gets bonused on there. Can you imagine, like, the American government, everybody gets a bonus that doubles their base salary, and that one metric is GDP growth? That's what you have in China. So they start with that framework, and they say, we got to provide jobs. And the way we're going to provide jobs is every 5 years, we're going to announce 5 industries that we're going to enter and dominate. And the third pillar of that is then that they subsidize 100 market entrants to come in, and then they let evolutionary biology take its place, and may the best person win. And so they get down to the top 3 or 5 competitors that are winning. So in this case, it's like BYD, Geely, NIO. And they say to those competitors, now we're going to consolidate all of the capacity that we've created with these 100 companies under you 3. You get it for free. And your job now is to export and dominate these markets. So they've gotten subsidies to get started, subsidies to operate, and now they're getting capacity for free. And they've proven themselves as the winners in a hyper-competitive market. And now they go enter the rest of the world where the competitors are soft. And that's their formula. And they run this formula across all kinds of industries. They run it in solar panels, they run it in TVs, they've run it in bicycles, they've run it in electric cars. And it's a very powerful flywheel they create. But those are the 4 pillars.
They're also starting to buy legacy brands. Have you seen this? That's where it gets really interesting because
Volvo? They own Volvo.
Yeah, so like people talk about are Chinese cars coming to America, and my answer is they already are. It's called Volvo.
Yeah,
Volvo is owned by Geely, and Zeekr is providing now the new Waymos that are hitting the road because Jaguar stopped the I-Pace production, so the new cars you're going to see are Zeekrs. So we already have 2 Chinese cars that are on the roads in America. This is not like a theoretical; it's an actual thing that's happening.
We interrupted you as you were explaining, like, you know, how you're kind of advising GM and what American manufacturers need to do to actually
or even America broadly.
Yeah. Considering they're coming for every physical.
Like, should we
good.
fight back, or is this like Happy Meal toys where it's like not that big of a deal that they're over there?
I think it's a big deal.
You know the answer to that, John.
I think it's a big deal. The auto industry is 5% of GDP in the U.S., but let's consider you're in Germany, it's 29% of GDP, or it's close to that in Japan. Like, you can't let your car industry go because there's so much GDP is tied up in it. So that means we got to compete, and competing means we got to have like super compelling product. And we've got to have super low cost manufacturing. And what's a little scary is like Amazon invented this thing called the lights out warehouse. Yeah. And it's lights out because the warehouses are so automated, there's no humans. So therefore you don't have to turn on the lights. The Chinese already have lights out factories. So like Xiaomi has a lights out factory where raw materials come in one end of the factory. There are no humans in the factory and finished cell phones come out the other side. That's crazy. And there's like a couple of electricians and plumbers keeping the thing running. But the plant manager is actually an AI that's running the plant.
Yeah.
That is something America's got to get ready for. And to get ready for it, we need a bunch of manufacturing engineers. And Tim Cook says this all the time. You could gather the best manufacturing engineers in the country and they would fit in the auditorium at Stanford. Yeah. If you gathered all the manufacturing engineers in China, they would fit in three Stanford football stadiums. Like we are so outgunned on the manufacturing engineering, and that's where we've got to like shift this fast. But that's got to be a demand pull from places like GM and Ford and others who are moving diligently in this direction.
And is the answer like literally Stanford? Like, does Stanford need to be training those folks specifically, or is it more money for trade schools or online courses?
I think it's all the above. Okay. It's all the above. Like Stanford needs to be training them. So does Purdue. So does Illinois. So does Michigan. So does Penn, et cetera. Like we got to put a focus around this and really bring supply chains into the U.S. So that we can have a fighting chance of not only building super automated factories, but super efficient supply chains next to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully we can execute. Thank you so much for at least laying down the algorithm and showing people how it can be done. And we appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us.
Fantastic to meet you, John. Feel free to pop on the show whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to you
Same,
more.
guys. Really good to talk to you. I'm a big fan, so thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon, John.
Great hanging.
Have a good one. Let me tell you about Plaid. Plaid powers the apps you use to spend, save, borrow, and invest, securely connecting bank accounts to move money, fight fraud, and improve lending now with AI. And without further ado, we have Karri from Linear in the Restream waiting room. Let's bring him into the TVPN Ultrasound. How you doing?
What's going on?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
You've been stirring up the internet this week.
Cooking.
It's my favorite hobby. It's definitely like something I like to do.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to talk about it. So take us through kind of the announcement this week, what led to it, all that stuff.
Yeah, so this week at Linear, we kind of like wanted to share more about like what is our thinking and kind of read on the market and in our category, which kind of historically has been this issue tracking, project management. And like I wrote this essay that like kind of like tries to like talk through some of these topics, and it starts with this like somewhat like controversial statement saying like issue tracking is dead. And I think what I was trying to do with it is to really like shake the industries and everyone's thinking around this. And I think what still is happening is that how companies and software companies operate, they still are operating with these old assumptions and like kind of processes that are built around the old world, like the world before AI agents and that kind of development workflow. So I think like historically issue tracking has been this ticketing task system for engineering. So basically engineer doesn't do anything unless there's a ticket. And then like you have to like create the ticket, someone else creates it, it goes to engineering, there's some negotiation happening. Eventually the engineer does something with it. And it's kind of like it's almost like this line cook system where it's like someone yells like, we need fries and steak, and then in the kitchen they start cooking it. And it's kind of dumb, and like I always thought it was dumb, but it's like how a lot of companies tend to operate. And the second problem, I think, is that these legacy platforms vendors have kind of like created this kind of idea that it should be complex, and like they kind of encourage the complexity and the overhead of this process. So we have customers coming to us and like, hey, we want to switch to linear, but then they say like, oh, we have this like bug tracking process which is 40 different states, and the bug report needs to have these 30 different custom fields. And then they ask, like, can you do that? And our answer is like, I don't think we should, or you shouldn't either. Like the point of moving to linear is actually rethink some of this stuff. Like, is this still necessary? Yeah. And I think like this becomes even more clear now is that if the agent can fix the bug in 5 minutes, but your bug reporting process or the process of running through that process takes a week, it starts to look pretty silly that like the actual work takes a lot less time than actually running through the whole process.
And you're sitting here being like, I don't want to be like part of the bottleneck.
Yeah. And so I think like my thinking here is like, I think we can start kind of compressing and simplifying a lot of these workflows. And even I know that companies do need some process where it's like compliance or security or some other reasons that you just can't remove. I think like the agent can like really handle that. But like this statement was really for us to say that I think we should all like kind of look into mirror. It's like, what are we doing here? And like, why? And do we still need to do these things? And from our perspective, we don't. I think we should start looking into different problems. And the different problems is like, like how do you work with the agents? And I think the problems I noticed today is one is like the context problem. Like how does the agent know what to work on? Or like how do you set up the agent to work on with the right context? And we think like linear can be that, or is already that context system for humans. So it can also be the context system for the agents. So linear collects custom like user bugs, it collects like user feedback or customer requests. There's also all kind of projects, you have goals, initiatives. There's a lot of context of like, what is your product? What is the state of your product? And also like, what is the future state of the product? And then if you can bring that into the agentic like workflow, I think the agents can work a lot better. So I think at Linear, we want to like look into that category of like context problems and try to like find solutions there. And then the second problem like I noticed is the agency part, that a lot of the systems historically has been quite static. Like it doesn't do anything unless you move the thing from one state to another. And we think like now the system should be with this right context and understanding of what you're doing and what your team or product is doing. It could start moving the work on its own. Like it should become more self-driving. And so for example, this bug reporting example is like, that if the bugs get reported in linear, they should just like the linear agent should look at it, like start debugging it, connect to other tools, make a fix, then eventually at the end, like tag in a human to like, hey, can you authorize or verify my fix? Mm-hmm. And so then this like 40 state bug tracking process is now like one state because the human only has to like verify it. And even if it's not correct solution, you still have the option to fix it and work with the agent. So I don't think we can one-shot problems all the time. But that's just like the direction we want to go. It's like, is there work that linear could do automatically that the humans don't even have to look at? And at least at the very beginning of the state, and linear could start doing it for you. And the last thing I'll say, like I think that we are launching like several things over the weeks. We launched this like linear agent, which it's an agentic surface for linear, so you can ask things. You can like how I use it is I get feature requests from people, then I go there as like, I wonder what other customers are saying about this problem, and like, can I understand the underlying need? Mm-hmm. Because I think the problem today starts to become like, if you can build anything fast, the problem is not building things anymore. The problem is like deciding what to build and why, and even understanding like what is the problem. So I think like linear can be a system like where you can understand the problem, shape the problems, and then pick a direction or solution and then start working on the like have the agent work on it with that like correct context and direction. So and then like in the future we'll also like we're working on our own coding agent, which I think there was some like confusion about it. And I think like the goal there is like it's more like a wrapper around this existing coding agents. And what we do there is like we can like dog food our own platform, which we have this like agent platform that third parties like Codex and Devin and Cursor have participated in, and like they have their agents in there. But like because we are building our own, we can kind of like create the capabilities and the tooling and the hooks or whatever we need better, because we also notice the opportunities as we build these things. And we also just generally see that there is probably like situations where the linear coding agent can be better than some of the like generalized coding agents.
Yeah, I think it's really smart to you know, if linear had been started 10 years prior, you would have been able to just like do the legacy SaaS playbook of like, let's just try to add a lot of seats every month and compound forever, and that was a beautiful existence. And now our entire industry is like disrupting itself, and so you can choose. I think Toby Lutke on David Senra's show was talking about like every category is up for grabs. There's going to be an AI native company in every single category. You can wish that this wasn't happening, or you can decide to be that company. And the mature, hard thing to do is like admit that things are changing, embrace it, rally the team around it, rally your customers around it. I think it makes a lot of sense. How do you think, taking a step back, like what's your view on how like enterprise software categories are evolving? Because I think a lot of people are kind of like waking up to this idea of like everybody wants to be, at least in software development, in the pipeline of tools, everybody now wants to be the same kind of like the same thing. You want to be the place where people go to encourage the machines to do things, right? And kind of do that. And so and how do you see Linear's role evolving? You know, you've been very open to different agents leveraging the platform. I'm sure you'll continue to be, but yeah, how are like software categories evolving in this era of like you kind of need to be selling? Everyone's trying to sell work.
Yeah, I don't think I have the complete answer there. I think there's a lot of nuance, and it's like depends on the markets. I do think like that feeling of everyone's building the same thing. I think partially comes from a lot of people are noticing the same primitives and from like the same kind of blocks or pieces of this puzzle, and then they're trying to like figure out like what is the right setup for that, or like what is the right order of those things, and like who is actually the best one to like own part of that puzzle. And I think that's like the feeling probably there. But I think like my thinking is that it's similar to earlier software days too. It's like when people invented databases, now everyone's like, why is everyone making databases?
Yeah,
like, well,
everyone wants to be a system of record.
Yeah, so I think there is like a lot of like there can be a lot of shared primitives across products. It doesn't mean that every product still like has the same outcome or like the same advantage or something. And I think like we don't know like how this will all play out. And I think the other sentiment I'm seeing is that there's this like idea of like let's throw everything out, like no SaaS at all. And I think that's an option, but I think like you can do that, and then you start like inventing stuff back from the first principles, and you maybe end up like in the same spot again. And I think like that's what we see in our space is like everyone's running their agent, and now they have 10 agents running. So then they put them on a Kanban board, which Linear has. And then it's like, oh, now I invented the agent orchestration. Like, no, you invented the Kanban board, which has been like around for like 30 years, but you just put the agent on a Kanban board. So like kudos to like connecting those two topics, but like it's not like that some things don't need to be reinvented. Like some things can still work, but like if you just throw everything out, you kind of like start from the beginning, and then I think it's a long journey to like figure everything out again.
Yeah, I got an investor update last year that was just like workflows have been rebranded in the product as agents. And that was a funny moment because I was like, okay, some of this stuff is very new approach to software, but some of it is just kind of repositioning.
I have one more question, but first we got to give a shout out to Russell Smith from Y Combinator. Summer 2012. We're not beating the YCS12 mafia allegations on this show, since I believe we all went through that one. But my last question is, we talk about linear every day on the show. 75% of enterprise companies are using agents. Have you talked to the other 25%? Like, what is unique about those businesses that they haven't jumped in? Are they just like asleep at the wheel, or is there something unique about their business where they're sticky and for security reasons or some other reason?
Or they're using agents but haven't integrated them.
Maybe.
Into their,
I'm just interested
workflows.
Because it feels like this is everyone understands how powerful agents are. Why is it not 100%? That's always an interesting question.
Yeah, and to clear the stat is like 77% of linear workspaces have cloud agents.
Okay.
So there's a difference between cloud agents and the local agents. So we don't track the local agents, but so I think the couple things like the cloud agents are still somewhat like less developed today. There's like environment problems where like if you have a massive system or some kind of large company system, the environment starts to become kind of complicated, and the industry hasn't fully solved it yet. I think it's a solvable problem, and many companies are kind of like solving it with these sandboxes of like you start a sandbox, the agent has the right environment and can do the things. So there's like just like a timing piece, a similar timing piece. Not everyone has like decided to do this and like go into the cloud agents. The third piece, which is it's kind of the stupid reason, is the policy. Companies are still procurement, IT, and security still run a lot of like decision making when it comes to tooling in companies. And there is a lot of companies that like the employees ask, "Can I use the agent?" And they say, "No, you can't." And they don't have like a reason for it, or like we have to evaluate it, and that evaluation takes months. And I think like what the companies need to look into here is like, what this has to change. Like you can't the industry is moving so fast, so you cannot have like many month-long processes to evaluate every single new tool. I think like the security standpoint is like valid, but like you kind of have to like figure out a new way to think about the security and not like block new tools. So I like one hack to this I've seen in some companies is like they have this friction form. So engineers that want to use feel friction and that they want to use new tools or AI, they form a fiction form, like file a fiction form, and then that escalates it to the higher leadership. And then it makes an SLA that has to be resolved in a week or in 10 days or something. And so you force the hand of this like procurement, IT, and security people to do something about it, because the incentive a lot of times for this jobs is like you don't want to rock the boat, so you don't want to change things if you don't have to. So then like the companies do. I think that leadership should recognize that like we do have to like allow people to use new tools, otherwise we will kind of fall behind here.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come give us the update. Always good to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Awesome
Thanks.
progress.
We'll talk to you soon. See you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Let me tell you about Gusto, the unified platform for payroll, benefits, and HR built to evolve with small and medium-sized businesses. And without further ado, let's bring in our next guest.
Sounds like a lightning round.
Yes, this is the Lambda lightning round. Demi,
what's happening?
Good to meet you.
You're
Welcome
here with us
to TBPN. Please introduce yourself and the company, because not only have we not heard of you, but I think you're coming out of stealth. No one's heard of you, or at least this company.
No one has heard of us. I'm Dimi Kellari. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Neion Bio. In a nutshell, what we do is we genetically engineer chickens to produce medicines inside their eggs.
Wow. How did you get into this? What's your backstory?
So I'm an aerospace engineer. So naturally, I went into biotech.
Yeah, chickens.
My co-founder is an evolutionary biologist as well. I've always been involved in manufacturing of complex things. Planes are sort of one complex thing. these proteins, these medicines are also similarly complex in different ways. As some of the problems facing drug pricing and sort of the onshoring of manufacturing had come to bear over the last few years, seemed like a good place to hone my skill set.
So what do you think?
Yeah, where did the original kind of concept come from? Was your co-founder,
making an omelet,
hanging out
being
with
like,
chickens?
this will cure cancer?
They're
like, these chickens, they lay eggs every day. We got to put something in them outside of.
You're not far off. I mean, we all know chickens to be sort of incredible sources of edible proteins, the ones that make your omelet. Most new medicines today are complex molecules. They are proteins themselves. And so the way they're manufactured today, prior to Neion Bio, is, it's expensive. It's sort of reliant on these complex, fragile global supply chains, and it sort of makes these drugs inaccessible to most people. But chickens happen to be the universe's best protein factory. They've been honed by 250 million years of evolution to efficiently turn very simple inputs, grain and water, into complex outputs, these proteins inside their eggs. And so we harness that same system to produce, some of the drugs you might see advertised on TV, like Humira or Keytruda.
How
wild.
So I mean, how far away are you from actually doing a partnership with a biotech company that owns intellectual property around a particular protein? It feels like there's this dance between, like, you need to genetically engineer the chicken, make the chicken, get the eggs, extract the protein, like actually get into the drug. That sounds like years, but then there's a ticking clock on every drug that's out there in the IP landscape. So how do you marry those two?
Yeah, so one of the things we announced today really is this large commercial deal that we signed with a partner to bring up to 3 drugs to market.
Up to 3 drugs, okay.
And the drugs that we're focusing on to start with are known as biosimilars. So they are drugs that have existed. We know they work. They're on the market. They can cost in the thousands or tens of thousands per dose. And, that's super expensive. We are starting with those because they're known molecules. We're not taking on molecular risk there. Over time, we're developing technologies that will make this process way faster, much more efficient, increase the yields. But for now, we have a very good market in the biosimilar space where there's huge demand for these drugs, coupled to sort of the cost aspect, which is a sort of a big part of our value proposition is the fact that
how many doses from an egg? Are we talking, what is it, a single shot, or can you get potentially multiple doses? And then, because I'm just thinking at some point you're just scaling a facility that has chickens in it.
Yeah, we scale by breeding chickens. That's one of the advantages here, right? Okay. It's pretty linear, and we know how to do that. To just give you a sense for scale, with a few thousand birds, and to give you a sense of what that means, a small farm is anything below 25,000 chickens. Wow. So with a few thousand, we can produce the global supply of a drug like Humira. So a chicken can treat, depending on what the medicine is, anywhere between 10 to 100 people in a year.
Wow. That is remarkable.
That is insane.
Do you not have a chicken sound effect?
I was just about to text the team. We need a chicken sound effect.
Play the rest of the barnyard.
We got the whole...
we'll ask, is there a plan to make horses work for us? Goats for us? Sheep? Are you staying in chickens forever, or will there be other animals? Okay, eventually. Okay, well, call us back.
We need horses to save us from other ailments.
There are actually drugs that come from horses as well.
You know where my mind's going? Partnership with Varda.
Varda, yes.
Space chicken.
I mean, I was thinking about that when you said aerospace to bio. There is an interesting overlap there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
On the line.
Yeah,
yeah, we're having a lot of fun, but this is one of the craziest pitches.
I think Caffeinated Capital's I think an investor in both companies as well, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Raymond loves making drugs in difficult ways, but potentially extremely valuable ways.
No, that's very cool, Demi.
Very cool. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
This is great. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Let me tell you about Vibe.co, where D2C brands, B2B startups, and AI companies advertise on streaming TV, pick channels, target audiences, and measure sales, just like on Meta. And without further ado, our next guest, Mikey Shulman from Suno. He is the co-founder, and we cannot wait to talk to him about AI-generated audio. Let's bring Mikey in from the Restream waiting room into the TBPL Ultradome. Mikey, good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Welcome back.
One of the most interesting, do you call yourself a Neo Lab? Is that a fair characterization?
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
We definitely do not think of ourselves as a Neo Lab.
Okay. But you are training models, you're doing AI, but you're a product company. Are you a consumer company? How do you think about yourself?
We're a consumer company. We're an entertainment company. Consumer entertainment doesn't seem so hot right now.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure why, but being entertained and fulfilled is like a basic part of being a person. And so often underlooked part of the market. We're like, the word we use here is creative entertainment.
Sure.
We are giving people the best, most fulfilling creative experiences of their lives.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds maybe broader than music one day. Have you thought about video? Are you thinking about, when I'm on Spotify, a lot of times a video will pop up alongside the music. Are you thinking about expanding or continuing to refine the music model itself?
It's a great question. I think there's a lot of reasons why this is going to work really, really well in music, the least of which is we love music. This is like really the DNA of the company.
Yeah.
But I think creative entertainment is coming everywhere. And I think about it like this, like I think even Claude Code or all of its competitors are creative entertainment. I don't know how much you guys play around with it, but it's like really fun to build things and it's really fun to use what you build.
Yeah.
And there's a huge allegory there for music too.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. The tinkerer mindset.
Let's talk about progress since the last time you popped on. You guys growing revenue at all? What metrics can you share?
I had heard some rumors. So the growth has been great. A lot of things have compounded, a lot of hard work from the team, and kind of some big step changes in how people engage with the platform.
Yeah.
So since our last model release, recently we kind of announced that we had hit 2 million subscribers, 300 million revenue, and we're like sorry to interrupt.
And you got cut off a little bit, but it's 300 million of ARR, you said, right?
That's remarkable.
Yes, that's right.
That's wild.
Insane.
And
how much have you appreciated? How much have you appreciated all the other the labs just slugging it out, like while you guys just kind of stay in your niche, focus, and go after what clearly is a massive opportunity, but maybe stays kind of off the radar for some of these other labs long enough for you guys to just run away with it?
Truly, I wake up 6 days of the week and I think this is great. We're the only ones really playing in consumer entertainment and I'm really, really excited. And then the 7th day of the week I wake up and I say we must be missing something that all these other giant companies know. But I think it's what I said before, being fulfilled is a much elevated state than utility, and everybody is focused on utility because it's straightforward, but eventually you need something more than that. This is a basic part of what being a person is all about. So we love to focus on it. I love watching people slog it out in other domains where scale and compute and dollars are honestly bigger weapons than they are in music.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying Suno a lot. Throwing on making songs for the team.
Yep.
It's just it's an amazing thing to just be joking. And in our use case, we're just joking around about something.
Yeah.
And I'm just all right, I'm going to turn it into a song.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But talk about the updates on the product side, the new voices, functionality, all that.
Yeah, it's really exciting launch. We a couple hours ago released a new model. It's our best model yet. We'll make the best music. But I think most excitingly is really gets personal. So you can use your own voice to make music that sounds like you. And if you're not the best singer, it actually sounds like a better version of you. And so there's something beautiful about that.
Auto-tune?
Yes. It and without sounding too artificially auto-tuning. Go try it out. I've learned not to try to demo this for people in large groups. People don't like singing in front of their friends. So I'm not going to try that here. And then
some other personalization features on the creation side about how you really kind of tailor the system to really know everything that you love. And then also really exciting is the ability to upload a bunch of tracks from off-platform of your own that you can kind of inspire the model to be more like those. And we've seen some amazing things happen from everything from like musicians, film composers, producers, to like uploading tracks there and getting the model to really kind of follow their lead. So it's like an incredible way to fall in love with a particular thing that you already love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited to play around with it, John.
Yeah, is there? I'm interested in like top feature requests and what we can learn. I don't, obviously you don't want to spill your entire roadmap, but some of the interesting things that happened in image models where you could at a certain point, take an image and basically just replace the background, and it wouldn't sort of regenerate your face. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity if artists opt in, or I have music, to say, okay, I want to keep the song exactly the same and just change out the lyrics to do sort of a remix, or keep the lyrics exactly the same and change out the style transfer. And I feel like all of those are maybe it's going to be more of a lift on like the business development side to figure out how to do that. But what are you excited about in terms of increasing the level of control from the creator or the user?
A lot of what you said is coming soon.
Yeah.
I think unlike other media, music has like a very rich history of basically derivatives,
remixes,
from covers to samples to remixes to mashups, and people riffing off one another is a way to spark creativity.
Yeah.
It is a way to keep old works alive, and so you'll see a lot of that come in the not so distant future.
Yeah,
some of it's already on platform.
Yeah, of course.
Something people don't know is like almost a quarter of all songs made on platform are derivatives of other songs on platforms, like a lot of covers basically. And so there's a kind of a social ecosystem around these things.
Yeah. What's the B2B side of the business like? We talked to a lot of AI video generation platforms, and it seems like there's a lot of just ad creative, like ad agencies basically, that are using the tool at volume beyond the creativity and just the fun of making an AI video for themselves. They actually see it as a way to accelerate creative works on their ad side. And I'm wondering if you're seeing pull from ad agencies saying, hey, we need a new song for this campaign. We have some AI generated video, and we're going to partner with Suno on that.
We've definitely had a lot of outreach. Honestly, it's just not a huge focus for us right now. Like, we want to delight everyone, like just regular people who love music.
Yeah.
And we're honestly, like, a lot of the company's DNA is not being, not trying to do the same thing a little bit faster or a little bit easier, but actually to try to do something that is entirely new and like that is changing how people entertain themselves. So there's probably a big business to build, helping people make songs for ads or jingles for companies. Maybe we can work together on a jingle as a side project. But for us, that'll be a side project.
What global superstar has embraced AI music the most?
And is it Meek Mill?
The most? I don't know. There's
because you kind of have to go on like a villain arc.
Soulja Boy did an AI.
The last time we were here, I was telling you, somebody I know in the music industry is like, every artist is using the Suno. Every artist thinks it's amazing. Nobody wants to talk about it yet because they're kind of scared of the reaction from the world and the creative industry and all this stuff. And so it feels like the first one or two people to go in a huge way will get some pushback, and then over time it just is normal.
I think it's slowly changing. I don't want to out anyone, but this is a quote that is attributed to me, but it's actually not mine. I'm not this clever. Of everything that you just said, ascribing this as the GLP-1 of music. It's like everyone's on it and no one wants to talk about it.
Yep.
And I think these things just take time. So I'm not gonna out anyone just yet.
Okay.
But it feels like things are changing.
Final question from the chat: are there deep cuts on Suno?
I don't know.
Deep cuts.
What?
You don't know what deep cut is?
Yeah.
Deep cut is like deeply underrated, like from deep cuts in the vinyl. Like everyone knows.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hits.
No, I understand, but it's not for me to say like what is good and not good. Like we never want to be the arbiters of good music and bad good music. And like I have deep cuts of my own that you're gonna hate, like that I made, and I promise you'll hate them.
I guess to quantify the question, it would be like, do you think the listener? The plays are less power law distributed than on, say, Spotify, where Spotify probably has like Taylor Swift at the tall end that's driving a ton of consumption. Do you think that your curve of consumption is a little bit more even?
For sure, for a couple of reasons. One is that the whole purpose of the platform is actually to enjoy creation, and not necessarily to go and browse for other people's music. It's actually to get inspired to make your own music. And so we actually see people falling in love as much with their own music on platform as they do with other people's music, which is amazing and new.
Yeah. So it's more. So the answer is more deep cuts. It's all deep cuts.
More deep.
Tons of deep cuts.
Yeah. Okay. But in that lens, it's all deep cuts on.
I love it. I mean, obviously not to paint it into a corner. There's a million ways to think about this. But thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with us.
Yeah, always great to catch up. Excited to play around with the new model.
Congrats on the progress.
Congrats
we'll talk to you
team.
soon.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. Let me tell you about Figma. Agents, meet the canvas. Your AI agents can now create and modify your Figma files with design system context. It's in beta starting today. And our next guest is Aida Baradari from Valence, the anti-surveillance company.
What's going on?
I'm very excited to talk to you. Congrats on the viral sensation. But since it is your first time on the show, please introduce yourself and the company.
Definitely. Thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Aida. I graduated with a degree in physics from Harvard, and now I'm building the Valence, a company that's protecting your freedom.
How does it work?
Great question. So basically, we're building on top of existing ultrasonic jammer technology, but what we're integrating here is that we're making it a smart device, which takes in information from the nearby environment and then targets or distortion signals into the direction of where we detect smart devices.
Interesting.
And then simultaneously, we also have an AI algorithm that makes sure that the distortion signals that we send out use artificial tones and voices that make it hard to decode.
Oh.
Okay, let's take it one more step back.
What's
like,
the problem?
what is the actual problem that people are experiencing today and may not even be aware of it?
Yeah, no, I love the question. So at the beginning of 2024, we saw a huge rise in AI variables. I mean, I think everyone in the Valley probably knows about Friend, about Omi, all those, promising technologies. The problem there becomes, well, when you have a conversation and, for example, you just forget to turn it off, a lot of confidential information and private information can be used to train AI models that you might not necessarily want to be trained on it. And people already have this problem who deal with a lot of confidential information in their everyday professional lives. So that can be people working in, in jobs that deal with IP, with other sensitive info. And this issue is way broader than just, audio recordings. We also see this with Meta Ray-Bans happening. Like there's a lot of unwanted recording happening there, a lot of freedom for people to just, go out and do whatever they want. And simultaneously, of course, digital data collection has been a thing for a long time. And the way that it's used in recommendation algorithms, for example, is another thing. So cognitive security is also a big part of this.
How do you not disable someone else's device if you're okay with them using it? I was skiing and a friend had Meta Ray-Bans and he was talking to them and I was sort of eavesdropping on the questions he was asking. He was sending texts to friends and whatnot, and he was fine with me hearing it. If I was wearing this device, wouldn't he just not be able to use his device?
In this particular case, I mean, if you don't mind, then you can just turn it off.
Okay. That makes sense.
So it's very easy. It's like an on-off thing for you to genuinely be in full autonomy over it.
Okay. And then what's, obviously it sounds like you launched pre-orders. Who has been buying? Is this corporations that want to make sure that because you could imagine, cell phone jammers exist and Faraday cages exist. Like there are ways to secure a property. Is this just privacy conscious individuals? Is this a direct-to-consumer product mostly?
So for the pre-orders, it's been mainly consumer facing, which means that a lot of people who have pre-ordered it are in the range that the price point allows. But we are working to like make it accessible and affordable to everyone because we really believe in the mission that everyone who wants autonomy really and agency over the data, they should have it. But we also are working on a version that is for more like organization based because they usually have different requirements. So we're also working on that.
Why is this?
We got to get TJ one of these.
Oh yeah,
we should gift him one. Our friend TJ Parker absolutely hates all the meeting recording and all these things that are just.
Can you make it into a watch? That would be the killer app. He's a watch.
I know.
Guy, so.
There's a lot of cool stuff with the form factor that we're experimenting with.
But what are you going to be in a little bit of like an economic war here? Because $1,000 product to counteract something that costs $100. There's just there's an economy here that's sort of misaligned. I'm also interested to hear about how on earth can a recording device cost $100 while an anti-recording device costs $1,000. I imagine that you think the price will drop over time, but what is in the device that is expensive?
Yeah, there's a lot of processing that's going on because we have certain algorithms that require a lot of power in order for it to, work. Yeah. So that is honestly a big component of the cost that's driving it. It's
maybe even a more powerful chip than what would just be in a passive audio recorder.
Yeah, I mean, passive audio recorders, they are usually not as complicated to build, right? You basically just need a mic and then you can just detect the stuff, right? But in this case, you want to like find nearby devices. Then you also want to make sure that they're blocked, and then you also want to make sure that the way that you're blocking them is not just reconstructable in post processing. Sure. So there's like 3 different tasks here that make it way more expensive, unfortunately. But we're working on it. So,
what are the laws around this right now? I remember the backlash to Google Glass, and then everyone had a phone, and it just seemed like if you're out in public, people can just take pictures of you and record you. Is it legal to block someone from recording me? I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of recording, there's 1-party and 2-party consent states. Sure. So, but nobody really follows that, I feel.
What's the 2-party? Is California 2-party?
I believe it's 2-party, yes.
Certainly doesn't feel like it when you walk around.
No, definitely does not feel like it. It's exactly, that's what I'm saying. Nobody really follows it, or it's not really enforced by folks. And then regarding the blocking, so certain blocking is not allowed. So for example, blocking from RF jamming is not allowed because you can get in the way with emergency services. But unless you don't do that, there's certain areas in which we can work in.
Okay, yeah. Very interesting. Well, where can people find it? Where can people pre-order if they're interested?
Go on our website. It's thevalence.com. Okay. That's where you can find it. Otherwise, I mean, in general, we're going to be posting a bit more also about the development process and the general vision and mission behind the company on our social media platforms. So on X, we're on B and Audible, and then my personal X account is just my name.
I need a little jammer for John's mic. Sometimes he'll just keep talking, and no, I'm kidding.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, great to meet you. Very, very cool that the chat is in a positive way, saying that it feels very Harry Potter coded to have this sort of magic device that.
I like that. That's a good one.
That's
like oddly high praise. Yes. Yeah, become invisible. It's the invisibility cloak for the modern era. Well, thank you so much. Cool. Congrats on the progress.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to follow along.
Have a great one. Let me tell you about AppLovin. Profitable advertising made easy with Axon.ai. Get access to over 1 billion daily active users and grow your business today. And without further ado, we'll bring in Zack Kanter from Stedi. Zack, how are you doing?
What's going on? No audio. You look fantastic. You have many books.
This lighting is fantastic, and the bookshelf is fantastic. This is, of course, Zack Kanter. He is the founder and CEO of Stedi.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. How you doing?
Here we go, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hopping on.
Great.
I feel like I'm surprised. I feel like I've never met you in person, but I know you from the internet for so long. So good to finally meet.
We're Twitter friends, It's how I meet many of my reputable and disreputable friends.
Exactly. But for those who haven't been following you in your journey, since it is the first appearance, please introduce yourself and the company.
Sure. I'm Zack Kanter. I'm the founder and CEO of Stedi. It's spelled S-T-E-D-I. We're a healthcare clearinghouse. So if you're not familiar with the world of healthcare, we exchange the administrative transactions that power all of healthcare. You probably heard stats like this before, that healthcare is 18% of U.S. GDP, so it's a pretty meaningful chunk of the ecosystem. But you go into your doctor's office, they ask you for your driver's license and your insurance card, and then they tell you your copay is $20 and you have 3 visits left and all those details. That's a transaction called the real-time eligibility check that happens under the hood. We process those. We process tens and tens of millions of those per month. And then when you finish the encounter, whether it's a surgery or a teeth cleaning, whatever it might be, they have to send a claim. There's a series of messages that come back. So there's an adjudication message that comes back saying the claim is rejected or accepted, and then the claim gets paid somehow. You get those things in the mail that say, this is not a bill, explanation of benefits. Yeah. Your doctor gets one of those as well. They can get them via paper, but they can also get them electronically. And basically, we process all these transactions back and forth.
And why can't a registered nurse just vibe code a system to do this for them? I'm just kidding.
Well, it's a funny question. It's interesting. So we primarily, we think about our business as selling to other technology companies. You think about us as like the Stripe of healthcare. Yeah. But we've seen a surprising number of these small and medium-sized doctors and dentist offices that are signing up. And so we recently did an analysis and spoke with a bunch of these places, and it turns out that indeed doctors are vibe coding revenue cycle management systems. So it's not thousands of them, but it's dozens of them.
It has happened. That's amazing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What have been the key milestones for the business? You're raising new money today. Your name is Stedi. Yes. John was saying how he's known you forever from the internet. I feel the same way. Just steadily.
Here we go.
Chugging along. But what does this milestone represent? Like, what did it take to get here? Healthcare, every healthcare founder will tell you that it's obviously easy. This big, massive market, but doesn't move as fast, and it can take years to make progress that another industry might happen in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, we didn't start in healthcare. I don't come from a healthcare background. I previously started a brand of auto parts. So I manufactured auto parts in Taiwan and China. Cool. And, follow the typical auto parts to healthcare pipeline as many founders do. And in building that business, I sold to O'Reilly Auto Parts and Amazon and these different retailers. Yeah. And I had to, at some point, it was probably in like 2011, the transaction volume got such that it wasn't feasible to have these things manually entered anymore, so before AI. Yeah. And so I reached out to all the different retailers that I was selling to and asked them to send me the API spec for their purchase orders so I can automate the transactions. And over the next 2 weeks, they all wrote back and they said, "What's an API?" Yeah. And so things got a little bit better since then. But what I found out at that point was that this whole world of retail, logistics, supply chain, transportation, et cetera, manufacturing is powered by a technology called X12 EDI. And so if you see Stedi is spelled S-T-E-D-I, it's because we started with this underlying EDI technology. And, long story short, maybe long story long here, I got so frustrated with the various EDI systems that were out there. I said, look, what I want to do is I want to receive purchase orders in. I want to get them into NetSuite. I want to have those automatically sent to a warehouse. I want the warehouse to ship the order. I want the transaction to come back. I want, when things come in via Flexport, I want those things to get automatically pushed into my system. This can't be that hard. Kind of famous last words. And I got so sick of the solutions that were out there that I ended up having my own system built. And then I ultimately sold the auto parts business to a private equity firm, and I started Stedi. And I spent like $50,000 on, which first, it was a bootstrap business, so spending $50,000 is a lot of money. $50,000 on building this homegrown platform, and I was like, it's going to cost like 10 times as much to do this for everybody for all transactions. I was like, but to be safe, there's margin of safety. I'll raise $1 million instead of $500K. And now we've raised $142 million total, and I think we still have more to do.
It's gong time. It's gong time.
There we go.
Thank you.
What's your favorite car?
Favorite car? It's funny. Like I grew up, you look at, the Porsche 911. You say like that's like a car that old guys who don't know anything about cars buy. And then you go and you drive one, and it actually turns out that 911, 60, 70 years of iterative design is pretty good.
Yeah. What kind of auto parts were you selling? I'm in the market to pick up a straight pipe exhaust system. It was a birthday present for Jordy. I'm hoping to get him some LED underlighting as well. Maybe stance his car. Were you doing anything like that?
I can hook you up.
You can help.
That's
fantastic.
It's gonna be like TBPN
Yes.
My Ride edition.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. I want a horse. You like horses? We put a horse in your car. We put a gong in the passenger seat. You can't transport anyone, but it looks good.
John has been trying to get me to go the Mansouri route for years, and he will be doing it until he.
You got to do it until you do it.
Out of this earth.
Until you do it with the full sponsored livery wrap on the car.
You guys hiring? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Engineers, product.
Talk a little bit about the company culture. Where are you based? Are you in person, remote? Like, what's the scale of the company right now?
So we're about 125 people. Wow. We're distributed. We have a bunch of people in New York, but we've got people all over the place. I live in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And look, I think with the talent wars, there's obvious pros to being in person.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're kind of making the implicit decision that you're going to exclude 99% of your potential hiring pool and saying we're not going to be able to hire those people. And for us, we think the trade-off's worth it. So we're all over the place.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Well,
so great to finally meet.
Yeah, great to finally meet.
Amazing progress.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Have a good one. Let me tell you about Fin.ai, the #1 AI agent for customer service. If you want AI to handle your customer support, go to Fin.ai. And let me also tell you about Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform that grows with your business and lets you sell in seconds, online, in-store, on mobile, on social, on marketplaces, and now with AI agents. And without further ado, we're going back to back.
There he is.
Zach. Oh, we got Nick. Sorry.
Nick.
I thought we were having Zach.
Great to
I was
see
excited
you.
to go back to back, Zach to Zach.
Look at this, plaid on plaid.
But this is a beautiful
on plaid.
background. This is a beautiful outfit.
Now
Introduce yourself.
At plaid.
Tell us how it's going.
This is where I'm living now. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you
Great
too.
to see you, dude.
How you doing?
Let's just start with a gong.
Start with a
Let's
gong.
start with a gong hit. I don't want to wait.
No delay. The anticipation was too high for the last one.
Congratulations.
You know how long I've dreamed of that moment.
Oh,
I've got to take a quick photo for my mom.
Let's do
Got it.
Fantastic. Very fun.
You can, of course, screenshot it.
Yeah.
But it's cooler.
Later, you'll be able to screenshot yourself
You taking a picture, and then say, "Look, Mom, I took this screenshot of me taking a picture for you."
Give us some background. Tell us the story of how you wound up in this particular situation. Just take us through it.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you all about it because as pioneers of new media, I feel like you'll understand this more than most people. But, we've been building This Week in FinTech as what started as a FinTech newsletter and turned into more of a FinTech media company over the last 6.5 years. And the Plaid team approached us about 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to talk about a partnership. So I came in there ready to sell a sponsorship, ready to sell a media deal.
Yeah.
And they said, actually, we've been thinking a lot about how we can improve the conversation around FinTech, and we want to partner with you guys. And what that means is we want to acquire the business.
Yeah.
And they won. They out-negotiated me. But here I am.
That's
Amazing.
great. So what do you think stays the same? What do you think changes? Are you going to be working in their office? How does all this fit together?
Yeah, I went and did a little office tour this morning, and I got a badge. So they haven't given me my gun yet, but they did give me my badge. And so after 6.5 years working out of a home office, just seeing another person and having a conversation in an office was a transformative experience for me.
Yeah,
we are going to keep things mostly the same from now, and then we'll just keep adjusting as we go. I think probably the best comp for what we're looking to build is something similar to Bloomberg with Bloomberg Business Week.
Oh, sure.
Where these are two really complementary properties. There's obviously a parent company, they share a name, but you can be a Bloomberg software customer without reading Business Week and vice versa.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What is the state of FinTech? What are you, you've been 6.5 years, you've seen the boom, the momentary bust, the comeback. During that time, there's been so many companies that have thrived throughout the entire period, even as the market was in turmoil overall. But what are you most excited about today?
Well, I assume most of the 500 million TBPN watchers know Jordy's background, but Jordy's an exited fintech founder who built Party Round and Capital. And so you also had a front row seat to kind of the change in the fintech ecosystem over that period. Today, what I've noticed is you had this spike in fintech enthusiasm and funding in the venture community in 2021. A lot of companies got out over their skis because of capital availability, and I think there were sloppy decisions made. And a lot of them took tough medicine. Some of them didn't make it past the downturn in liquidity for fintech startups, but a lot of them said, look, we're going to build real businesses now. We're going to take the tough medicine, and we're going to come out the other side stronger. And so if you look at the top right corner and see Ramp, like that's a great example of a company that has been around for a long time, said, hey, we grew too quickly, downsized, and now they're better for it and are just kind of crushing and shipping on a weekly cadence and really redefining this entire category. And so what we're seeing today is you have fintech companies, we've been talking about this for a long time, you have fintech companies that are actually taking market share from incumbents. I know fintech companies have wanted to say, hey, look, we're the challengers, but we're going to be the dominant providers of financial services one day. But now that's actually happening. And so, thinking about this with my Plaid hat on.
So much merch.
I love how you you just came with the same you came prepared.
Yeah.
You understood the assignment, the same entertainment level as we bring. Put on your steel man, John.
Yeah.
We noticed that, the tech media conversation hasn't really caught up to how well some of these fintech companies are doing. And it's tough. Technology media is really stretched. And I think there are a lot of different areas like AI, like crypto that, command a lot of attention. And so you have really well-run companies like Ramp that are doing generally interesting stuff and shipping at this crazy rate, but nobody's covering them other than the TBPN. And so we're looking to really
but even we're not covering it on a level where if you're a fintech industry insider or builder, you're actually getting alpha from our fintech coverage, and alpha comes into like, okay, what does infrastructure look like? What kind of what bank partners are evolving with the needs of these companies? Like, you guys are going like 10 layers deeper and have been for so long. I think it's super important.
Yeah. Last question for me.
I appreciate that.
What media formats, where, how would you describe where you are now, and then what excites you? Because, obviously the newsletter list is over 200,000 subscribers. Congratulations, massive. How many newsletters do you want to send a year? Do you want that to increase? Do you want to do more events, video, interviews, audio? Like what's interesting to sort of zoom out and think about the next couple of years?
Yeah, our DNA has always been the community initiative. And so events are a big part of what we do. International is a big part of what we do because there's so much interesting innovation happening.
That makes sense.
American tech companies will go on stage at conferences in Mexico City and in, Lagos, Nigeria, and talk about what they're doing. But then they actually start talking to people who are operators in Lagos, Mexico City, and the level of innovation there is often, more advanced in fintech than you'll see in the US because these are areas that don't have the same level of financial services. And so you actually have to build a lot more there. And that's been a big part of our DNA too. And so I think it's really double down on the community focus, really deep, thoughtful writing, and continuing to grow the pie, not just here, but internationally as well.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Amazing. Super pumped for you.
Taking the time.
Match made in heaven.
A true match between the background and the shirt.
Truly.
And the hat.
Truly.
It's fantastic.
Come in person next time.
Yeah,
it's great to finally have you on the show.
We'll catch up soon. Have a good one.
Man, Nick.
We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Good to see y'all.
And up next, we have the co-founder and CEO of Plaid, Zack Kanter, in the Restream waiting room. Let's bring him into the TBPN Ultra. Zack, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
When did you first meet Nick?
That's a great question.
I think it was at a Money 2020. I think it was maybe 6 years ago, something like that. It's been a long time, and we've long admired what Nick and team have built. I feel so honored to get to work with them in this new way, and it's been pretty amazing to watch them go over the last few years.
Yeah. Talk about your experience as CEO at an event. What makes for a good event that you will say yes to attending, appearing at, et cetera? Like, what's the secret sauce that you're like, okay, that clicks into place, and I'm going to say yes to that, because I'm sure you get invites every day.
Yeah, I think, oh man, this is a difficult one because my default answer is no. My EA and I have the conversation frequently of no new things.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
I think it all comes down to who's there and the size of the event.
Sure.
Small things where I can meet people that are really high value are super interesting. Things that have content in an angle that's not covered all the time in the same way are valuable. So I don't say yes to a lot of things, which feels fortunate. Also, I really like working, so it's hard to get up from.
Yeah, we're the same way. What outside of this acquisition? What's on your mind this week?
Yeah.
What's the business focused on? What are you focused on personally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I don't want to skip over this week in fintech. I mean, big deal for us. Like, we've been really excited to push this conversation forward over the past many weeks. We're excited to now finally have Nik and co as a part of the team, and the future together. I think is going to be super fun. Aside from that, big focus is AIify everything. So you might have seen we did a launch with Perplexity. This was, I think, a week and a half ago or so, where we can power the finance tab of the Perplexity application. And it allows you to do things like see your stock portfolio in real time, get an update in the morning to understand, what stocks you might want to trade in a given day. Lots more that we're going to do with them to bring in more financial data into Perplexity. And I think this is the first step in a lot of kind of consumer-facing AI experiences. So that's been a big one for us internally.
That's very cool. I mean, you think about people are using they're going to AI tools for intelligence to help them understand the world, but then they lack all of the, maybe you've put something into the context, or maybe that has some memory, but it's lacking like that real-time data on you individually, and money being at the core of everyone's life just means that it's like very important for it to be in there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, what is integration with AI tools look like? How is it changing? Obviously, you're known for the API, which has had years and years of development. There's MCP now. There's skill.md files. There's all these different ways to interact. The agents can obviously use APIs and write their own API integrations. Where do you see that going? Are there any changes that you need to make, or you're in flight already making?
Yeah. So short answer is the core of Plaid doesn't change all that much, right?
Yeah.
We are a pipe to bank accounts.
Yep.
We're then a data store on top of that, and then analytics that sit on top of that. So that chain doesn't change all that much, but the entry point to that change does change a lot. So we're doing a lot of work internally to say, how do we build a one-shot vibe coder, get started with a thing?
Yep.
So you can go home and build your own personal financial management app. Now, you guys are nerds. You might do that.
Yep.
Most of the world is not quite as nerdy, no offense.
I was literally just thinking about that. I was like, okay, so I'm going to go and tell Codex to write a Plaid integration, pull all my bank accounts together, tell me exactly how much money I spent on everything, recategorize it using LLMs, basically rebuild Mint for myself. And I'm like, maybe there's a tool for this. I don't know, but it'll be more fun to build. So tinkerer mindset.
You should probably just use Perplexity or many of the other wonderful Plaid apps that are out there. I will say I have spent more hours than I would care to share building the totally most souped up personal financial management tool. It does literally everything in my financial life. And it is perfectly
six
built.
monitors.
Yes. Situation monitor. Yeah.
Not 6, but you don't see this room. There are many.
We caught you.
This app is the perfect thing for me and my wife. It's it has everything, and I can chat with our legal docs from purchasing a house and stuff, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so some people are doing that, and we would like to make it really easy for those people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw in 2 months, I think we saw a 200% increase in the number of hobbyist developers that are building stuff on Plaid. Yeah. I don't quote me on that stat. I guess I'm on public TV now, so I said that. But
Business Insider's going to turn this into an article for sure. No, we will caveat it. But I was about to ask you, yes, you are actually seeing some sort of material increase in the number of small indie developers, vibe coders, hackers, individuals. It's not just I'm sure there's a lot of excitement from the enterprise to deeper their integrations, but you are seeing a groundswell at the individual level, which is fascinating.
It's that, yeah. So that's really big for larger enterprises. They're like, how do I automate all of the support stuff on top of Plaid? So we build like support tools for them. And then like, there's a lot of consumers have questions about like what data is going where, and so we're thinking about like how can we smartly build intelligent permissions on top of the data permissioning, so that as a consumer, you might not want to link your cal sheet spending, but you might want to be able to analyze your stocks. Like how do we create tools for that kind of thing?
Yeah. Are you seeing, like, I guess the question is like, where are you seeing benefits when the frontier advances? Like people are, currently excited about GPT 5.4 or Gemini 3.1, and they see a model and they're like, okay, this new release does this new benchmark better, or it has a better smell, or it feels better in this particular area. But as a business owner and business leader, you might have a system that's using an LLM or an API, and it's already at 100%. And so are there systems that you're not upgrading, and then there's some systems that you want to keep on the frontier, like chat or I don't know, going around and doing fraud detection? Like where are you hitting the newest, most expensive model button versus, okay, the system that we've built is actually rock solid and like we're good there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers of the stack, and it kind of varies based on the layer. So for coding, like I want our engineers to be using cutting edge possible everything in almost all situations. Now, at some point we will get into like cost optimization and cost management. We're not in that phase right now. We're in the like get the best possible thing and go as fast as you can. Within the products, we don't want to actually upgrade our models too quickly. For example, like we built a lot of stuff to improve transaction categorization. If transaction categorization changes quickly, our customers notice and they're like, oh, well, I built like, you might say something's a restaurant and I want to say it's a food purchase. Okay, great. But if you change it all the time, then I'm not going to be able to map restaurant to food purchase as quickly as possible. So it's like different names for the same category. Those changes are hard. Where it flows into our anti-fraud models and like eventually into our credit models, we don't want to be changing the models too quickly because we have to do a lot of back testing every time we make an upgrade. But then anything that's like, customer facing, like our improved support experience, so on and so forth, like there we can be quite iterative, and like oftentimes we're not using the cutting edge, we're maybe using a turn or two back because the value, it doesn't make any better responses, but the cost is high. So there's so many different choices that we're making on this stuff. It's honestly really fun.
Yeah. It seems like a really
What is your thesis on how agents will use money? Because there's a number of companies that have sprung up, and their incentive is to tell you that agents will exclusively use stable coins and generate their own real-time payment rails on the fly because they don't want to deal with fees. And I think we've generally, John and I have been pretty like neutral on this. Like we can imagine a scenario where an agent would use stable coins, but we can also imagine a scenario where
an agent like hires a human to be a bag man and carry cash from one place to another. That's another possibility.
That's another possibility. Or just use the
go to a labor marketplace.
Existing rails that if an agent's acting on my behalf, maybe they use the existing set of financial products that I already use.
Yeah, I mean, for as far as I can see, which in this environment is maybe a year or something like that, I think like agents using credit cards is going to be like by far the primary thing that happens. The reason for that is the merchants accept credit cards, right? Merchants don't accept stablecoins for the most part, for most of the things that a consumer wants to do. Now, over time, certain types of merchants might start to accept stablecoins, like certain types of payments might move in that direction. The question is like, will the companies that care about making credit cards really easy be able to make them sufficiently easy in the amount of time that the merchants actually start to shift to think about accepting stablecoins? And my hunch is like you've seen, I think like Ramp actually launched an agentic credit card. Like one of our customers, privacy.com, they have an agentic credit card. I know there's a bunch of other agentic credit cards that are out there, and like I can't like imagine that there will not be 5,000 YC companies that are launching agentic focused credit cards soon. So like I think we will see more and more options pop up. That's not to say I'm not a believer in stablecoins. I think it'd be super cool, but I just don't think it's realistic in a short time frame.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
What about what is your timeline or prediction around big institutional banks natively supporting stable coins? Like, is there a point where like the default Chase account, you want to make a payment and you have the option of, a Zelle, a wire, or a stablecoin payment, or is that not coming ever, or what's your general read?
I think it's probably coming. I don't know that it's coming fast, and I think there's like a lot of reasons for them to want to be slow, but I certainly think some of that is coming. I think wires not working on weekends, one, is actually structurally not true. There are many ways to like create the effect that a wire has moved on weekends. So like if a bank wanted to do that, they could do that. But ultimately, like it is a thing that bothers enough people that some people will want to move money on weekends, and we're going to have to give them ways to do that. So stablecoins seem to be the most optimal way to do that, even though you can change the existing system.
Mm-hmm.
But
you wonder where that maybe there's not enough consumers that are even asking right now, to be honest, but it might actually come from industry first, where like car dealerships are like, hey, like we really want better ways to.
I just found a bit of a potential competitor for you. You might need to watch out for in like the agentic future. I went to Brinks.com, and there you can move money via an armored car, and the roads are open on the weekend, so you can move a lot of cash. You might want to watch out, Zach. You start retooling the business plan, because you're going to have to deal with, hey, Codex, dispatch the Brink truck. Don't make mistakes. This is going to happen. You got to watch out. You got to stay sharp.
What else is on the roadmap for Plaid this year that you can talk about now?
We've got FX coming up. So FX is our annual conference. It'll happen here in a couple months. It's going to be awesome, super fun. Nick, we haven't figured out what we're going to do together.
I was thinking he could fit really well into that too.
MC.
Great.
Very good.
Exactly. If you guys want to come visit, we'd love to have you.
Amazing.
But so that's going to be a big one. We've got a bunch of launches lined up for that.
Cool.
You can't spill the beans on all of them, but like there are going to be a lot of AI related things, as you might imagine. And then look, it's been a really fun year so far. I think just like even for me as a leader, retooling the company to think about like how do we want to operate differently. If the average size of an engineering product and design pod was 8 people, now it's 4 people. Like how can we parallelize things? So like. Honestly, just as a leader, it's really fun right now to get to retool an entire organization around an improved shipping velocity.
Yeah.
I'm nerding out with it. It's great.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations on all the progress. Congratulations on the acquisition, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Great to see you, Zach.
Goodbye. The Daily Beast got a little bit of a scoop. Here's how they phrased it. They said the 75-year-old Disney executive who stepped down as CEO just last week has been busted for leading a secret double life on social media under a different name. And Taylor Lorenz is on a tear. She says, Bob Iger had a private IG account for IRL friends and family where he shared kayaking photos with his wife. And this is how the Daily Beast framed it. That is an absolutely deranged way. It's like, yeah, I guess he had a Finsta. He had a fake Instagram account where he would, connect with friends. Not an uncommon tactic for someone who's probably the most scrutinized and watched public figure potentially in the business world. Everyone wants to track and read into what is Bob Iger doing? Is he, is he in the office? Is he in Orlando? Is he at Disneyland? There's a lot of reasons why people would want to report on everything that he does, and he probably doesn't want to share all that, so he had to do the fake Instagram, the alternate, the private Instagram for friends.
We have a good place to end it.
Please.
John Palmer's wife's company was more innovative than TBPN and Fast Company. Honestly, fair. What is row 7?
We got beat.
Row 7 makes seeds.
Seeds?
A vegetable company dedicated to deliciousness. This is more innovative.
It is.
They're inventing vegetables.
They're returning.
We reinvented business television.
Well, it ain't over till it's over, so stay vigilant.
Just wait
row
for
7,
next year.
Because we're coming for you.
We're coming for you. It's personal now.
It's personal now. We're not stopping until we get to number 41. Let's make it happen. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching
stars
today.
on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Sign up for our newsletter, tbpn.com, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.